Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
He really sails it too. Now he got that one up. And Tyler Shelnut pulls it to left and gone! Solo shot makes it a 2-run lead. In the air toward right field, sending Noah Souls back on the move. Oh! Wow! Here's a drive from Tyler O'Neill. This one's got some carry to it. Back to the left center field wall. It's gone! Another home run for Tyler O'Neill.
And now Will lines it down the right field side. That's a fair ball. It's going to roll to the corner. Shohei's on the run. He's around second. Now touching third. He's on his way to the plate. Smith around second. He is into third, standing with a 2-out RBI triple. 3-0 Dodgers.
Tatum from up high. Now drives lively into the painted area. Passes out to Brown. A corner three on its way. And down it goes for Jaylen Brown. 5th assist already for Jason Tatum. Tatum makes his way up. Sidestep three on its way. And good! Tatum's second quarter assault continues. He's got 16. And the lead indeed is 20. The final 4 seconds tick away. Get ready to raise an 18th banner, Boston. The Celtics are once again the winningest franchise in the history of the NBA. It's an 18th title for the Celtics, the 2024 NBA champions.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage, right here in the lovely old Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. It's not really, I'm getting a little feedback here, Shano. Get a little echo. Doing all right?
Who? Oh,
What?
yeah, I can hear it now.
Is that me? We good?
I don't know.
I don't know. DB, how you doing this morning?
Well, things are good.
We're getting there?
Yeah. For some reason, I don't have the link, which is fine by me. Like, I hope to never be in StreamYard.
I just DM'd it to you, so hopefully, that helps out at some point.
But that's okay.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can just carry on.
Just carry on. Carry on our wayward son.
Best thing he ever did was going bald.
Who sang that, Shano?
Kansas.
Thank you.
Is that true?
Yes, I believe so. That's who I thought it was.
Stop.
The live version's great from the Leftover CD.
Pardon?
That's a deep cut, Shane.
Leftover from what?
Leftover CD, the live cut.
What is he
great.
saying? Leftover shirt?
Sure.
Left overture?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like an overture?
Yeah, Leftover.
Oh, I would thought you were saying
The-
leftover.
The
Sure.
CD's called Leftover, and it's a live album, and
Like
it's just great.
like a direction left?
Yeah, I mean, if you YouTube it sometime, it's pretty good.
Like,
Shut up.
like Beyonce to the left,
Zip it.
like left. You got to do the fingers sometimes. Like, is that an L? Is that
Here
backward?
we go.
No?
Whatever, man.
I thought he was saying leftover, like leftover food, and then churro, like half of a churro. And I was like, that's a weird name for an album, Shane.
Here we go.
Here we go. We got
I'm taking more notes in my Cirque du Soleil notebook.
taking some notes today. What are we taking
I need
notes about?
I need to tear some of these pages out
What are we taking notes about today?
today. Well, it was get downhill, don't be fancy, get after it. Training is a lifestyle. Then I have a couple names: Quentin Warren, Christian Jones, Burke Brown, Trace Beatty. My rotation. Then we go Code Red. What's our blueprint?
Code Red, like Few Good Men.
Nope, that's the name of our defense.
Okay.
We definitely did call the Code Red. And my drill sheet and owning our own roles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I got today.
You're owning what roles are you owning today?
So for me personally, it would be as a wingman.
Yeah.
Yeah, not like Goose or Maverick, a different type of wingman.
Well, yeah, because Goose is dead, so we don't want that. Spoiler.
Wow, awful morbid.
I mean, he is. What do you want me to do?
Today I'm gonna be a good wingman. And that's all the further I've made it. It's only 7:03.
It is only 7:04 now. We're moving along.
I made that time up, but I am officially fascinated by the weather. So that's and I excuse me, I always have been.
Mhm.
Bill Ranby and Matt Serwy
Mhm.
when he was here before he went going home.
Back to Wisconsin. Yeah.
Was like my wingman. I am just fascinated because I let the dogs out every morning, and so I'm always, I just take a
quick inventory.
I just take a gander, see what's going on. Do I want to turn my sprinkler system on?
Are you the goose or the gander?
According to the saying, who would I rather be? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Like, who would I rather be?
I think you both, as long as you're on the same page. Because it's not about one being bad versus one being good. It's about an individual doing what's good for the group.
Then let's be since I was staring, let's be the gander.
All right, let's do it.
Or is it gander-er?
At that point, you'd be a gander-er.
Okay. One of those tricky ER things again.
Yeah, not purpler.
Yeah, so I still think I can get away. If you can get away with littler, I think I should.
Littler is an actual word.
I think I should be able
purpler?
Yeah.
It sounds like what Jamarcus Russell was drinking. It's like, yeah, I'm drinking that purpler.
It's apparently what the Mets are drinking.
That Grimace juice.
Dude, you think about purple drink? That game was drunk last night. I don't even know why I'm captivated, except for I want to be right about the Cubs.
Yeah,
I do. But apparently the Mets are good again.
Allegedly. Well, a couple days at least.
So another reason is that I'm curious about what the Metropolitans are doing.
Mm-hmm.
They have a couple of arms that may become available.
Ooh, I like available arms.
Right? Don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't somebody going to want to make a run at Severino or somebody?
Yeah, and
maybe
they've got to sell.
Are you sure?
I mean,
well, they're not look at their division.
They're not catching Phillies, or they're certainly not catching the Phillies. I doubt they're catching the Braves.
At this particular juncture, they may not catch the Nationals. But
fair.
So I guess they're selling. But can you do that with that fan base?
I think
you have to at least pretend, don't you?
I don't know. Ask the Red Sox owners.
Well, they should put Lindor on the market.
Yeah. I mean, they've got to do something because obviously, like, paying out of their nose for the payroll just has not worked.
No, he is filthy rich.
Like, I get that, but at some
it doesn't
point,
mean you want to give away money.
Rich people don't like wasting money either.
No, I know they didn't get rich that way.
And I get a lot of these are kind of vanity projects for them, so they leave their business models aside. But at some point, rich people still look at the bottom line and they're like, "Hey, if I'm spending this amount of money for this number of wins, that doesn't work for me." Yeah. Now, if he was having the Phillies record, yeah, he'd be spending whatever he wants because he's getting like a return on his investment, even if it's not financial, right? But if you're sitting there and you're like, I've been under 500, I've been paying a lot of money for this team for the last few years, and we're bad.
Mm-hmm.
At what point are you just like, what? Cut my losses? What are we doing?
Yeah, they should have brought back the purple dude sooner.
Got to bring back Grimace.
Yeah, but I don't understand what the Cubs are doing. Cubs got to go they got to go shore up the back end. Boy, they are total trash.
I mean, they're total trash. They're still, they're just a few games below 500. They're not that bad.
So 8.5 total, right?
Well, they're 8.5 back
of the leader.
Of the leader, yeah.
A leader.
I knew you were going to do that.
Well, I talked to him so much in my life, I feel like I can do that voice.
So they are
trying to keep something.
They're only 2 games back in the wild card.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of they're in no Cubs land.
Yeah.
I don't even like the Cubs, so I really couldn't care less outside of the fact that
go Cubs go.
I just felt like, considering I was awful with the Brewers, but I did tell you about the Cards and the Cubs, and the Cards are they're teasing me, showing like they have signs of life.
They are pretending to be maybe okay at baseball.
They're capable.
Yeah, I mean that's why you liked them, but they hadn't played very well for a good stretch there. I just didn't
peg them as a team, as a franchise that was going to play back-to-back dodo eggs. Yeah, whatever, man.
I mean, listen.
So anyway, back to the weather. How is it going to be? What's the high today?
87.
And then tomorrow it's like 69, and then we're back to like 80s and 90s. It's like, I don't know. And are we going to get these games in today?
We're going to get the first one in, I bet. The second one.
Of course, because people don't want us to work together.
Second one might be a little trouble.
I don't know. Laugh that off.
You know,
Don't be sending me any. I'm just telling you, full warning. Don't send me any texts.
I don't
about
do
Florida
that.
State.
I don't do that. I'm not that guy. That pisses me off. I hate that.
Thank you, Doc.
Especially when it's somebody that doesn't know you like that.
Yeah.
Like if you sent me a text about UNC, like let's say UNC wins today and you sent me a text, I wouldn't love it, but I'd be like, all right, whatever. Me and DB are like that. It's cool. I don't know if I'd respond, but I wouldn't be like mad about it. But there's some people
Oh, I know.
like
I know.
that are not, you're not like that with. And they're just out here when the worst one's Creighton, Nebraska, right? When Creighton and Nebraska playing basketball, people just come out of the woodwork to text me.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, I don't know you like that. You may feel like you know me like that. And just because you have my phone number, you think you might be able to text me like that?
That happens in this job, though, because we share so much. At least, yeah, I think we do. We share so much of us. It's easy to feel like, well, I know those guys.
Oh, for sure. And I get it. I do, really. But if you actually have my phone number, because I don't, the DMs and the stuff on Twitter kind of like it, that's part of the job. I'm like, whatever. All right, I get it. But if you know me well enough to have my phone number,
then you probably know not to chide you over.
You should, yeah, you should know better than to, like, because I don't do that to people. Because I don't.
Believe me, I've lost my mind before.
What's the joy in that? I don't care about that.
It's childish.
Now, like
with the Kyrie Irving gif too.
Now,
you're such a hater.
Now, if Texas A&M loses, I don't know any Texas A&M people in my life, but I will be pretty loud about it on Twitter.
Yeah, your boy's just parlaying. Thought about going to grab a bite to eat, but not enough low-key places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can come over to my house.
No, I don't. I think having Trev over to your house with me to eat would be like that scene in Gladiator where the dude has to taste the food first. And I know something would be up because you don't cook.
No, you can bring your own food.
Yeah,
you can bring your own food.
I was just watching some detective.
I'm not gonna poison him. I might like talk a little crazy, but I'm not actually crazy. I'm not like murder people crazy.
Oh, it's about 6 degrees.
Yeah, but there is that separation.
Wow. No, so he looked good in his Is that just maroon?
It's just maroon.
And his little polo.
You know, it's Texas. They don't have the vocabulary to come up with interesting colors down there.
No shots fired on my end. I'm not. My mom is from Texas, so I chill.
Yeah, she got out though, like a smart person.
I'm not.
My mom's from Iowa, but she's been here for longer.
Yeah, you could Ravi here for getting loose on Iowegians.
Got to GTFO.
Shane is from Iowa.
Yeah, he's from Walt Hill.
Still sounds like somebody's name. I miss Nebraska. Although I DM with him a fair amount, so I get my fill.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do it to ourselves, he said. He said that in probably 15, maybe.
Walt Hill is somebody's name. That town was named after a guy by the name of Walt Hill. So
I assume so.
Yeah,
that's not true.
It's true.
He made that up.
No, that's somebody's name.
I'm sure there is someone named Walt Hill. It was named after the hills. There was a bunch of aggressive hills in the area. It was named after the hills.
So where's the Walt?
It may be someone called Walt, but it wasn't Walt Hill.
Is it a name?
It may be like Walt's Hills, like North Fork, right? But it was like Norfolk wasn't named after somebody like, oh, that's Jim Norfolk. That wasn't what happened.
Shane, I'm like, since I'm going to tag in, we're going to be like the Road Warriors today. Do we feel like does Ravi need? Are we going to have to go a little 2-on-1 here? Because I feel like he's a little out of pocket early. Yes, indeed. Okay, I just want to make sure.
I'm ready to fight.
That's both of us. You've taken a few little.
I'm ready to fight. Let's go.
Settle shots at.
Got to keep your hands up.
Is that we back on the pastry thing? Is that what's going on?
Hand out. I've been on the pastry thing for a minute.
Yeah, I know. It's like 6 days in a row. You're doing too much.
Listen,
and you have 34 C4s too.
No, I got one.
How many did you drink the other day? Which was one too many?
Which one? Which time?
Which days did you have multiple C4s? Which no one does in the same 1 hour setting.
I had them both. I didn't drink them both. This is the second one from that day. I bought two.
You kept it?
Yeah, because usually when you go to the gas station, it's like one for $4 or 2 for $6. So I get
those
the 2.
things have quietly they've gotten high.
So I just get the 2 and then I drink one and then I save the other one for whenever I need it next.
Who goes out of business first with the bad publicity, Prime or Celsius? Celsius has got a bigger brand.
Yeah, I would guess
they're getting hammered here the last.
I would guess Prime.
Yeah,
because Prime sort of feels like a weird. Because that's the Jake Paul or his
one of the Pauls.
Yeah, one of the Paul Logan. I don't know. That sort of it feels like it's got less staying power overall. That's just me. I don't know.
According to Wikipedia, Wald Hill was named for Walter Wald Hill, son of railroad executive James Hill.
I knew he was going to. I knew it. That's one thing I knew for sure he was right.
I don't buy it.
Of course.
I mean, we know Wikipedia is always right, but I mean,
Wikipedia's never missed.
Oh well, which is more likely to happen? Wikipedia being wrong, or once Ravi's dead wrong, he won't admit that he's wrong. Which, like, both those things have a high probability. You know what I mean? Ravi's never been wrong a day in his life.
Yes, indeed.
I've been wrong lots of days, just never to Shane. Unless it's music related.
Old Joe Mazzulla's thumbing his nose up at you.
I didn't say Joe Mazzulla couldn't win a title. I said I don't know how good of a coach he is.
Apparently, he's pretty good.
Yeah, I think right place, right person, right place, right time.
But that's part of it.
It is. I agree. I'm saying I don't know what his like. If you want to be like, hey, he's great with the people in that locker room, and that's his biggest skill set. Awesome. I feel the same way about Phil Jackson. Like they obviously have some basketball acumen to get to where they're at, but Phil Jackson's biggest talent.
I'm not even here for that nonsense. You could just stop right now.
Phil Jackson's biggest talent was people management.
I don't know why you grind that axe.
Because it's true.
It's ridiculous.
Phil Jackson's biggest talent.
And you've had some stupid arguments, but that one is in like the top 5.
Phil Jackson's biggest talent is people management.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
I'm not saying he's bad at basketball stuff.
Because I'm genuinely curious. I'm not setting you up this time. What do you think? What was the biggest difference between Mark Jackson and Steve Kerr? Steve Kerr coming in the following year.
So there were a couple big ones. The first one is Mark Jackson did not know how to coach offense at all. That was a big problem. That was a tactical issue. Like genuinely it was.
Okay.
The other, I think, was temperament. I think Mark Jackson revved really high for a group that didn't make a lot of sense for. And I think Steve Kerr is a very measured, he'll get after you for the most part.
So did the managing of the personalities, was that kind of a thing?
Yes. I'm not saying the managing of the personalities. You're just
here to put a percentage on it.
No, I'm just making a distinction. You can value them at whatever you want, and I'm not going to argue. If you tell me basketball, NBA, if you're telling me NBA is 90% people management and that's what you need to hire for in a coach, okay. If you tell me it's 50-50, I'm fine with that. I am just making a distinction because they're different things. And some guys are better at the people management and some guys are better at the basketball. And if you've got a guy that's good at both, obviously you've got like a Spoelstra situation where he's awesome at his job and nobody questions it. But most guys lean one way or the other, right? Same thing with college football, right? You've got guys that are.
It's funny that you use the Spoelstra for an example because you have to be a specific type player to play for him.
Yes. But he manages those types of players incredibly well. And a lot of them are guys that other people can't deal with.
Yeah. So you realize, though, it's way more important than you think it is. Because there are certain guys that just can't be heat. You can't handle Riley and you can't handle Spoelstra. Right? But they're successful. So being able to manage your kinds of people is much, much, much more important than you're leading on to give it credit for. We know from the film analyst stuff and all of that he can do offenses and X's and O's, but it's just like discrediting Hurley sometimes. There's got to be something about the way that he demands excellence that is, even if because you think his offense is just okay. And even though he's not the offensive guy,
think the offense is good. I don't think it's that complex,
but there's something about the buttons that those guys push
for sure.
That is,
I wouldn't want
extremely important.
I wouldn't want, and I don't know which part you're hearing me say that part's not important. Just because I am either making a distinction or being like, hey, they're good at this, but not at this. I'm not saying that the people management is not important. I 100% believe
so
that
what
it
are
is.
you? Because so it sounds like either Belgian or some sort of waffle. Because like, what are you saying? Is this safe statement that like, hey, in coaching,
No,
technical and tactical matter? Well, no poop.
No, what I'm saying is people that are like my statement originally with Joe Mazzulla was that I don't know how good of a basketball coach he is. When I said that, I meant the tactical side. Should I have been more specific? Absolutely.
Sure. Okay.
But I meant the tactical side.
Because I mean, that's a pretty safe statement unto itself. It's like
it's a broad statement.
Because if I'm talking about coaches and I'm like, oh man, I mean, he's just okay here, but he's really good there. But you need both. Like, okay.
But my point is, in the NBA, I don't know if you need both all the way or one way or the other. I'm willing to entertain that the tactical side in the NBA might be less important.
But so the where I'm hung up is like guys that you'll use for the example. It sounds now Tony's usually a great defender, so I'm gonna wait for TG to say that I'm pushing you around. But it sounds like you're quick to bring up Phil Jackson and say he's only this. So it sounds as though it is disparaging or it is to lessen his value. Because when you make the distinction between, let's say, the almighty Greg Popovich and Phil Jackson, you're quick to say, "Oh, Phil is his greatest asset was that he just could manage personalities." That isn't
the only reason
certain amount of percent.
It 100% is, and like I said, you can make that percent whatever it is, whatever you think it is.
That is so safe,
and I'm not going to argue with it. The reason I made that. Listen,
you can't get me with that.
No, listen,
it's like
I'm getting to the Phil Jackson thing.
It's like slinking out of the room after with the sunken shoulders. After it's like you came in kind of like, and then people look at you. And
where am I slinking? I'm still sitting here.
Okay.
I'm trying to explain the Phil Jackson thing. The reason I made the distinction with Phil Jackson is because I believe that Greg Popovich was on anymore. It might be lost his fastball a little bit here, but I believe Greg Popovich was very good at both the people management and the tactical. The reason I brought up Phil Jackson's my view of deficiencies on the tactical was to only because we were comparing the two. Now, that doesn't mean he's worse tactically than Joe Mazzulla if I don't think he's very good. Or anyone else. That's not even to say he's not above average tactically. But the thing that made Phil Jackson was the people management.
Okay. So, but you realize this is like, okay, let's say I move on past the Phil Jackson thing.
It seems unlikely, but okay. Let's pretend.
No, I'm going to move on past the Phil Jackson thing. But let's not act like the last. So who won the college basketball championship?
That would be one UConn.
Who won the NBA championship?
That would be the Boston Celtics.
Don't you find it odd that you've taken aggressive stances over both their coaching prowess?
No. I've said that Hurley is an incredible coach. I have repeatedly. I actively do not like him.
Okay.
Actively. And I think the complexity of his offense is overblown. But in the same sentence, I have said his ability to teach the execution of it is unbelievable.
Another one of those safe landings.
It's not a safe landing. It's it's nuance, man. I don't know what to tell you.
So why do you like? Well, because I think
you want it to be a hotter take than it actually is.
It's just weird It's weird waltz to back yourself into a corner with. Hills, that is.
I don't see any corners. I feel fine. That's DB, who's apparently spicy this morning. I'm Ravi Lulla. I'm just out here.
I just asked the question.
Just out here for nuance.
We will be back. We will be back.
Man, I love Joe Mazzulla so much. I mean, coming off the year that I had, and then he gets the job, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to start you, which I wasn't expecting. And he's like, I just believe in you, and I trust in you. This is just going to give you the confidence. And, I mean, from that moment on, I think it's changed my whole career.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Here to start game 5, Doncic missed another free throw. Horford the rebound out to Peyton Pritchard, the specialist from half court at the buzzer. Good, he does it again! Peyton Pritchard, late in the half, enters the game just for that, and he banks it home from half court.
We are back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Shane Schillerberg producing for us here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on the Pillar Exterior stage.
Hello, friends.
I'm getting smoked in the comments a little bit here, so I'm going to start addressing those in a minute. But first,
it's just too easy.
Well, I mean, it's because people don't listen, but that's fine.
Of course.
That's fine. I mean, listen, I'm just here to educate. It's fine.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
So Missoula has a clip. I don't know if I sent it to Shane or not, where he intentionally inserted Pritchard into the game to make that shot, to shoot that shot.
Okay.
Is that tactical? Or you just catch a break?
I mean, he knows that guy can make that shot. That's great.
Okay. Just real dismiss. See, and I know when you've said this numerous times. You're like, I think most of my problem is when I say things.
I didn't call it a problem. I just said it's what other other people's problem.
Shane, can I say the letter and I can't?
You can say the letter and then the word.
Yeah.
You can't
so
say the whole
you said
yeah.
I wouldn't say it. I don't. It's not even a cool word. You're like, I know that I sound like an a-hole.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, 100%.
And then I said, you guys can't get past hearing the a-hole to listen to what I'm actually saying.
You guys?
You people.
The free world?
You people. Yeah, the listeners.
That's pretty tactical, though. See, how do you have the gall to be dismissive over a fact? Like that, you're just in denial.
It is a tactical move, but it's okay. Is it that? Does it take a rocket scientist to be like, hey,
here we go with the whole value thing? You're like, Shane, who sang that song "Slippery" or the album "Slippery When Wet"? I know the fake
Bon Jovi
radio host that had that post doesn't like when I ask about music, but
John Bon Jovi.
Thank you. What?
Let's get to TK on the Hurrdat hotline. TK, what's up, bud? TK, you there?
10,000 years gives you such a crick in the neck. Good morning, fellas.
Lord have mercy.
You being Genie this morning? What's going on here?
Hey, you're fortunate we took a call in the first segment and the second segment. What's up?
Hey,
what's up?
I'm here to sing your praises, DB.
Oh shoot, that's rare. Look, you mad? You mad? What's up, TK?
Never mind. We don't have time for a call right now.
DB thinks that everybody bullies him. We got to tell him exactly when he does things right. So, purpler is a word.
Thank you.
I put my legal research skills to the test. Found that it is a word recognized by the U.S. Scrabble Championships.
Yes.
Oh, no. Give me Merriam-Webster. Don't give me the Scrabble nonsense.
Who's Merriam compared to Timmy Scrabble?
Don't give me the Scrabble nonsense.
Is a horrific dictionary.
Okay, so give me a real dictionary. Don't give me Scrabble.
Dictionary. There's sounds in there. They're not words. Those are sounds. We have a word for that.
It's called onomatopoeia.
But,
don't give me right. Scrabble words. Scrabble words aren't real. Give me a dictionary.
This is an incredible start to the morning.
Give me a dictionary.
Okay.
If a dictionary recognizes purpler, I will relent.
You can be wrong. It's fine. I also got to give him props because I've been reading him stuff since he kind of started at Rivals.
Yeah.
That kid is going to be, I don't know how old he is. He's probably older than me.
No, I think he's a youngin'.
Because, well, DB, I may sound like I'm 40.
Oh, that's right, because you're low. You're
23.
I was going to say, you're low 20s. He's probably a few years older.
I would have guessed mid-20s. I would have guessed like 25, 26.
That dude is going to get a massive contract from On3, just like what On3's been doing recently and buying up pretty much all the good national people. He's going to be one of those one day.
Well,
he's going to be one of those one day.
He better not big time us.
Dude, we're trying to help him out.
That's what I'm saying. He better not big time us.
Hey, TK, right, I appreciate. I liked his style too.
Yeah, I thought he was really good.
I liked his style too.
You did a great job in getting him.
I appreciate that.
Now
Thank
the more interesting stuff. Josh Pate yesterday, or 2 days ago, whenever he streams his stuff, had a question posed to him. Well, it wasn't a question. That no Power 4 conference champion will be undefeated. Do you think that is true?
Yes. Yes.
I think I agree. I think the only shot of somebody being undefeated is Utah.
I'm probably more inclined to agree with that. I
love Utah.
So I ran through after Ravi's love affair a couple of days ago with Cam Rising, and I saw a Utah fan at the CWS. It was an older gentleman. He had on a Utah hat. My dumb butt went down there and struck up a conversation with him. This guy couldn't have been younger than 70, right? This little itty bitty guy, and he loves him some Cam Rising. And I was like, I got a friend up there that is like all in on this guy. And he goes, hello, friend. And I'm not kidding. He goes, I'm glad you guys didn't try to steal him before you brought that rule in. And I was like, no, see, our fan base thought Kyle Whittingham was too old.
I love Kyle Whittingham.
So I went through
their Kyle Whittingham in a heartbeat.
Listen, I went through their record and I wound up at 10-2. Like just at first blush, but you could convince me of 11-1.
Who were the losses?
I don't know. I can't remember real time.
Now.
But so what I don't like doing, TK, is not giving myself any wiggle room. So it's why I would take the under on 10.5.
Oh, now it's
Michigan.
Okay to have wiggle room.
No, because I'm not saying anything definitively. If I was going to be definitive, my style would change.
You think at Oklahoma State is a possible loss?
Yeah,
that's one.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Who's going to play quarterback
at Okie State?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, here's the two things. Here's the two things people don't realize about Oklahoma State. They get folks off the field and they can run the football. So anytime you can do that, I'm not sure. And I'm listening to you, right? But I'm not sure how great your quarterback play has to be in Stillwater.
At Houston?
No. That wasn't it.
Right. With the Oklahoma State thing, I
BYU?
completely respect Oklahoma Bofolini.
Yeah.
But
I like the Houston thing.
Their offensive line is going to be good enough to go against Utah's run defense.
Yep. I'm kind of with you on the Houston thing. To some degree. I've got Ravi tilting his head. He's trying to find another.
I've only got one.
So you got him at 11-1?
Yeah, and I think there's maybe a couple coin flips in there, and I would put Oklahoma State in the coin flip category.
I didn't give them every coin flip. So safely I said, let's say they're 10-2.
So Southern Utah, W.
Yep.
I'm giving them Baylor.
Yep.
I'm giving them at Utah State. Oklahoma State's coin flip I'm calling.
Yep.
How you feel about Arizona this year?
I don't like them.
It's at home, so that's a win.
I don't
think
like
for
them.
Utah.
I don't like Arizona got gutted.
Yeah, at Arizona State's a W.
Okay.
I don't think they were very good last year. They might surprise us, but I can't look at TCU.
They're just not going to be as good as Utah.
TCU had me interested. I called that a coin flip.
At home. Okay, so we got two coin flips. At Houston.
No.
Okay. BYU at home.
No.
At Colorado. They're gonna.
No.
Stylistically, they'll kill Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado.
And Colorado will be hurt.
By
that's what I.
Because they only have 18 guys on the roster.
Give me one more.
Iowa State at home.
It's at
Utah.
Okay, that wasn't it.
At UCF.
To be honest with you, that might be the scariest game.
Well,
if it was at Iowa State, I'd feel worse about it. If I was Utah.
Iowa State's going to.
They're not going to overlook Oklahoma State. They'll overlook Iowa, maybe. Iowa State, maybe.
Iowa State's good.
I think Iowa State's going to be pretty good.
I'm a big Matt Campbell guy. You don't have to sell me on Iowa State.
I'll give you 10-1 or 11-1.
At UCF is the last one.
Maybe.
Call it a coin flip.
Yeah, well coached down there.
So call them 3 coin flips. So I could see 11-1, 10-2, somewhere in there. I could also see 12-0. There's no game on here that I'm like, that's a loss.
Yeah. They're the only one that I think it is possible for them to go undefeated. Everybody else's schedules are too hard.
I'm kind of. I had an offshoot of one. Tim, go look at Mississippi's Ole Miss's schedule, and I get it. It's the SEC, and they're bound to flub up. But I could see.
Not bad. It's not bad.
I could see Ole Miss at 10-2.
Oh no, for sure. I already have futures in for them in Missouri for their overs because they're at I think they're at like 9.5.
Are you surprised that people still kind of hating on Drink? Like quietly, they have done a really good job.
I think it's just like the Missouri. Like if his name's attached to like one of the traditional SEC programs, then nobody would care.
Yeah, if he's attached to a program we respect, we'd look at it a lot differently. TK, appreciate
good call, buddy.
Appreciate the call, TK. We will
see you guys.
We'll see you in the comment section. We appreciate you. Coming up next, I may finally set up the show. We'll see what happens. That's DB.
It's a crapshoot.
I'm Ravi Lulla. We're here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Man, I love Joe Mazzulla so much. I mean, coming off the year that I had, and then he gets the job, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to start you, which I wasn't expecting. And he's like, I just believe in you, and I trust in you. This is just going to give you the confidence. And, I mean, from that moment on, I think it's changed my whole career.
That's inconsequential stuff. Doesn't matter, according to my co-host Ravi. Lulla, as we welcome you back to Hurrdat Sports Radio. We are looking live from the Pillar Exterior Studio. I love being here, even though I'm having a Gizmo Gremlin moment.
Okay.
Too many bright lights. Where is Cam, Sasha, somebody to control the lighting? I feel like, I don't know if people know, but I'm already I'm like magically melanated. I don't need the baking lamp. We're doing too much.
Well, never mind.
What? Go ahead and say it so we can both get kicked off together.
Both of us are a little darker complexion.
You got more wiggle room, though.
Sometimes you need a little more lighting so people can actually see us. If it's too dark in here,
really,
they only see us when we laugh.
Really? Really? That's what we're on. 888-638-4876.
Also, that's not what I said about Joe Mazzulla. Anyway, coming up on the show today.
Was that important, do you think? Like,
it's an own question.
I mean,
him injecting some confidence in Derek White.
Let's ask the homeless guy who we bought a house for whether he likes us or not. Okay.
Wow.
You heard him. He's like, I was terrible last year. And he's like, you're starting, bud. And I was like, yeah, I'd be loyal too. All right. Sure. Eric Luallen from Florida State. He does the baseball broadcast. He will be joining us at 8:45. Mike Schaefer at 9 o'clock from Husker 24/7. We'll wrap up the show with Tony Mejia from Sporting News to put a bow on the NBA season. Very anticlimactic finals.
I said it for a long, long time to you, and you fought it.
Mm-hmm.
So really, really, really good basketball team.
Boston is very good.
I don't care about the path.
Boston is very good.
Sometimes you got to catch some breaks.
Hey, no hating on that. Yeah, I will say,
sometimes you got to be Burke without a called third strike.
What?
Maybe
like not getting the check swing call or doing some stuff like that.
Fudge. I watched Shea get his brain squeezed out the other day on the bump against them, and I was losing my mind.
Yeah.
Those were strikes.
Jamie Arnold had pretty tight strike zone.
And you can't give Tennessee multiple looks at it. At some point, they're gonna get you.
Yeah.
You want to get back to what?
Well, I just want to.
You got your. Are you getting what's going on? Do I need to get in the comments?
No, you're fine. Amazing Daniel.
Like looking at myself. That's why I don't.
Being a contrarian like he does, it's fine.
Wow, passive aggressive at my man, Amazing D.
Well, and he's like you, where he doesn't listen so good. Sometimes he hears
2 and 5 seconds. Oh, hey. There's the first time that anybody's ever compared me and Amazing Daniel, except for the fact we're both Steelers fans.
Yeah, see, I compare you guys all the time.
I thought of him the other day too when I was watching. I was on 80, and it was actually a brother, big muscle head, screaming down the interstate on his bike, and he like wove in between traffic. You know how sometimes motorcycles do, and I'm like. It's just weird how sometimes I think folks on motorcycles want special privileges. Like it's always weird to get the proper distance behind a motorcycle, and when
it's hard to gauge. It's
before they get kind of mad or check the rearview mirror and stuff. I'm like, you guys want different. You want us to treat you different when you're on the road, but you drive different.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's a fair point.
My man, Amazing Daniel, wouldn't do that.
No, I don't think he would. He says Ravi's acting like he didn't discount Phil Jackson nearly as much as he did. You have to listen to the conversation.
No. See,
here's the listen.
No. Here's the thing.
Listen, Linda.
We're gonna nip this one.
Listen,
in the bud.
Linda.
We're gonna nip this one in the bud.
Don't be doing nothing to my bud.
I don't smoke it. Might as well nip it. Such a kind person. Okay. See,
that's a good bud joke.
You almost threw me off. You can't not own your presentation. Like it's part of your shtick. It's who you are. It's what we do. It's what personalities that talk for a living have. So you're not afforded the luxury. You can do it, but you'd be dead wrong because you absolve yourself of any responsibility. You cannot say, well, it doesn't matter how I said it. Well, it absolutely does. But you want to be dismissive of that. If I say, be quiet. If I say, be quiet.
Yeah.
I said the same thing, but it matters. So you can't say, oh, they didn't listen. No, own your delivery and be open to how it was interpreted. And
then I did say you misinterpreted.
Sure.
It's okay. So I'm saying he misinterpreted.
Okay.
Because I'll own the delivery. That's fine. I sometimes always sound super condescending, and that's
it's
okay.
not. And it's this with the Phil Jackson thing. It wasn't even so much the delivery as much as you use it as a non-quantifier. So when you want to refute the point, Phil Jackson is who you use. So the natural assumption is, and you can say, "Oh, you shouldn't assume." The natural assumption is you're giving me the counter argument when you use a guy like Phil Jackson. That's what you're missing. Regardless of what your intent is, when you use that as the, like, if you give me something and I use another guy, I'm clearly trying to give you the antithesis, right? So see, it's okay to just say, yeah, you're right. It's okay. Practice it. So that's why it sounds as though you're discounting.
I think antithesis is too simple. That's why I brought up nuance in the last segment, even jokingly, right? Because I'm not using the fact that Phil Jackson may not have the technical acumen of someone else. I'm using it as to say he doesn't have any technical acumen. When I say, because antithesis to me is like, hey, this guy is a basketball savant. He can't deal with people at all, but he's incredible tactically.
Why does it have to be such an extreme?
Because that's what antithesis means. It means opposite. Opposites are extreme.
But wait a minute, though. I'm talking. Gosh, you're good at this, but not really. You gave me the definition of the word. Cool. But it's not in the same context as you're using the conversation, because what you're going to say is you're not saying one is the other. The context of how the whole English language works is if you say, what's a good analogy on the fly? I was going to use a Sunny Cloudy reference. If you give me, if you're talking about tactical guys and guys that are let's just use Pop and Phil for the discussion. And you give me Phil, or you give me Pop examples, and I give you Phil Jackson, and you say, yeah, but Phil, you're using it as a disqualifier, right? So if antithesis is too strong of a word, what other word would you use? The opposite of your argument, not the opposite of each other. The opposite of the argument, not the opposite of each other.
I don't know if this is a word. I use it as a distinguishing factor.
Okay.
Because the only thing I was saying about Phil,
are we making a distinction between the two to elevate?
No, I'm making yes, in that case I was, because I thought, I think Pop is a better head coach.
So right there, that's what's going to get the reception that we are hearing wrong about Phil Jackson.
Well, so
you're using it as a distinction to elevate one or the other.
Yes.
So, okay.
But
okay,
here's the only thing that I would like to say is it seems like people think I don't think Phil Jackson was a good basketball coach. That is absolutely not what I was saying.
Okay.
That's the only thing I would like to make clear. If you think I'm over,
I know. He and Tex, they just stumbled their way into 10 titles because they had good players.
I never said that.
I know.
All I said is I think Pop is a better basketball coach because he's got both of the things at what I think is a high level. I think Phil's is a little more out of balance. Elite on the people management.
Because you'll make the case that all things being equal with the same 7-player rotation, Pop's staff would outcoach Phil's staff.
Yes. Tactically. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Now, the people management does matter.
Okay.
And I think Pop's really good at people management as well. Now, his personalities that he had to deal with, because there's no apples to apples comparison here, right?
And we can't prove it. So I won't die on the hill. We're just talking about the ability to have
which is
conversations and how
all I want
the
to say,
receiving audience.
All I want to say is it was received as though I think Phil Jackson is not a good basketball coach, and that was not. All I was doing was comparing the two best basketball coaches of all time.
Do you think it was received that you didn't think Dan Hurley was a good coach?
Maybe, but I don't think I said that either.
Do you think it could be perceived that you're saying Joe Mazzulla isn't a good basketball coach?
That's the one that is probably the closest to what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I believe about Dan Hurley, and we can get to this because that's they brought up Tom Osborne in this too.
Who's they?
The commenters, the YouTube people.
Hey, we got a tough
those
streak,
people.
So you better be careful.
No, that's fine. So here's what I was saying about Dan Hurley. The only thing I've said about Dan Hurley is I don't think his offense is as complex as people want it to be or want to make it seem, although it's executed at an ungodly level. I've said that a million times. Mm-hmm. And I just don't personally like him. That's not to say nobody else likes him. That's not to say his players don't love him. I do not personally like him from what I've seen and what I've witnessed, right? That is not saying he's a bad basketball coach. He's obviously an awesome basketball coach. I think he gets a little too much credit for the complexity of his offense, but his ability to coach it at that level is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. That's what I was saying about Dan Hurley. They brought up in the YouTube comments, it's like, oh, was Tom Osborne not a good coach because he ran a basic offense? First of all, I don't think the option's a basic offense. I don't. I think it's way more complicated than people give it credit for. Secondly, if you want to use that example and say it's a basic offense, that's fine. Maybe Tom Osborne is a good example there because he had it executed at a super high level the same way Dan Hurley does, right? Maybe Tom Osborne wasn't for everybody as a personality, but obviously he was for some at least, right? Maybe Dan Hurley is a great example for Tom Osborne. I'm okay with that. I can live with that. Maybe some people love Tom, maybe some people didn't. That's okay. Doesn't have to be for me if he was for the people in the room, at least enough of them. I can live with that. You guys are lucky we got an open segment here. We'll we'll get back into it.
Thanks for sparing us.
Wow, I didn't do it. Shane did it. He put the schedule together. So we got an open segment here. We'll continue more.
I thought about it for a while.
We'll do with more Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. There's a lot of people being wrong today, DB. I don't know. It's
well, I mean,
you
you're actually getting people to like some, because this is a total Ravi angle right here as we welcome you back. So my man Ryan says, I'm a big Phil guy, but he did have Tex Winter to rely on for the tactical stuff. My response, I can't stand that argument. All good coaches have quality assistants. My man comes back with, good assistants can make a good head coach look great, and I'm Team Phil. Like, that's an opinion. The facts are, the facts are, good coaches have good assistants.
Yeah.
It gets into the opinion world of the shine one puts on the other. And why get into the weeds with that? The only reason, and I'm 100% sure of this, the only reason we use Tex Winters and Phil Jackson is because Phil and the players have given Tex Winters credit.
Yeah, because we know his name.
Just about to say that.
Yeah,
we don't have any idea who Greg Popovich's top assistant is. So again,
they did have a shooting coach named Chip England who revolutionized basketball, but that's okay.
Revolutionized?
That was strong.
Okay, it's not like
he revolutionized the way that franchise drafted, because he was able to turn like a Kawhi Leonard into a functional jump shooter, not more than functional jump shooter. The way they drafted. Sorry, that was aggressive.
So the problem with that answer is it is so Ravinian, which is going to be a thing.
I wouldn't even make that argument though.
But wait a minute though. So it's not the specific example. It's the but I'm going to give myself a safe landing spot because I'm not going to say anything of substance. Okay. So why say it in the first place? If you're going to land on, well, sometimes good assistants make it. So what was the original point?
The original point I was making is that I think Greg Popovich is a slightly better coach all time than Phil Jackson.
So
that's all.
So I want to recalibrate the discussion. This isn't I couldn't care less about the Phil versus Greg thing.
That's fine.
It's the manner in which we have conversations to arrive at a conclusion. That's what this whole thing. So I use that as an example because it's easy pickings, at least for me.
And Daniel, so he says, see, that was classic Ravi. He revolutionized basketball. I mean, he changed the way the one franchise drafted. We're doing live radio, man. Sometimes the right words don't come out the first time.
Hey, listen, welcome to my world.
I'm just saying,
listen, 20 years,
I reframed it.
People get it. This happens.
You looked at me weird. I reframed it immediately. We were on the same page after that. It was fine. It's live bleeping radio, bud. It's not going to be I'm not going to phrase it perfectly every time.
Hey.
That's just what it is.
Are you ready for the Seminoles to take the bump today?
I'm just glad I get to watch them play again.
It's a fun job.
I love it. I'm just saying, there needs to be some context here. It's not like I wrote this in an article.
Oh, Ravi Lulla here for context all of a sudden.
I'm the one providing context this whole time.
Of course.
You're the one.
Yep.
Ravi Lulla here for nuance. Do we not remember? That's how we're going to sign off the show from now on.
Okay, love you. Thanks. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Love you. Bye.
Have a good day.
I do want to get back into the schedule thing because you have me interested.
Yeah, because we were looking at because TK was talking about Utah, and I don't see any. I see 3 coin flips, no sure losses. That team could easily go anywhere between 10-2 and 12-0. No question.
Okay.
Especially if Cam Rising stays healthy.
Then we went through Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, I think,
was that on or off air?
Off.
Okay.
I think we landed about 10-2. And we said 1 loss, 2 coin flips. All they have to do is split the coin flips.
And you're riding the 11-1 Iowa Hawkeye train.
So I said 10-2 just to give myself one, but there's only 1 game on there. It's Ohio State that I'm like, okay, that's a loss. That's the only one on the schedule where I'm like, that's a loss. And guess what? They're probably going to play them pretty close because it's Iowa and that's what they do.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Every once in a while, Ohio State gets away from them because they're just better. But, like, if that's a 7 to 10 point game, you'd be shocked?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be.
Yeah, that's what, like,
not at first blush.
You know, that's I'm looking at this Iowa schedule. I'm going to go through it real quick because I don't see 3 losses on this schedule, and they're over under 7.5.
So okay.
That's the real number. I'm not making that up, right? Like that's
yeah.
Like that's
there's a handful of teams at 7.5.
That's nuts.
So
I can't find 5 losses on this schedule.
I'm curious because I do think that secondary will be outstanding.
Yeah.
And they always play good defense anyway, but they become their own benchmark.
Yeah.
Why do you think the number is so low though?
I think it's the
I don't think it's not even it's under the number of games they normally win.
Yeah. I think it's a narrative thing. Because of how bad the narrative got around the offense last year. I think it's just people like, to me, that's a Vegas number where they're like, hey, we have to put it here to get anyone to take
I
the
just
over.
don't think they roll like that. You think they feel compelled?
No, but they're trying to get even action on each side of the number.
That's a misnumber too. You'd rather have everybody lose.
Well, yes.
I still don't know why people say that.
Because if you've got the juice on the winner,
yeah, I ideally,
then you make the margin.
Ideally, the public would just lose.
Yes, ideally, but
because it's of no real consequence to just only win the juice.
No, well, it is because over large scale,
not compared to if the public loses.
No, but you can't count on 90% of people losing all the time. So what you do is you bake this.
Is this
casinos?
You want to teach me how Vegas makes the lines?
No,
I think that's become a very antiquated.
I'm not talking about the lines necessarily, but I'm talking about like casinos are just risk mitigation.
Okay,
that's all it is. And so the risk mitigation is if you yes, you want to set the line.
You're learning because I was gonna walk you into something, but I like how now it's like let me get this.
I'm not talking about lines so much as I am like the financial model.
Okay,
right. Because what you want to do in that situation is yes, you want to give yourself upside.
Zero pushback from me on that.
You want to give yourself upside, but you want to allow yourself that if the downside happens, you still make money, right? So the juice is the downside. We still make money if you can make it generally even, unless you just know something the public doesn't. Mm-hmm. That's where some of the line stuff comes in because generally Vegas knows better than the public.
Do you know what Vegas wants when they set a line?
To win.
Action.
Yeah.
They want action.
And
they want action.
You can make the argument that the best way to get the most action is to have a compelling number.
Yeah. I definitely would make that argument.
Right?
Yeah.
And a compelling number gets action oftentimes on both sides of the number.
But ideally they want the public to lose.
100%. But they can't live in an ideal world though. They have to live in a risk world.
And they also can't operate with the public never winning either. So
yes, the public has to win enough to keep coming back. Right? So that's where the juice is becoming incredibly important because even if everybody, even if it's 50-50 split, half the people win, half the people lose.
I would probably put that somewhere at the tertiary thing, the juice.
I think the juice is pretty important.
So, okay. So why do you think it's advantageous to not move the line and make something like -150 or -180? You'll look at the win totals. You'll see, the over is slanted at -180. Why not? I get it. You want to set it at a hook?
Mm-hmm.
Why not move it and get the push?
Move the juice?
Yeah.
To where?
To the next number.
Yeah, but the next number could be anything. That's the problem with.
Listen to what I'm telling you.
Okay.
So let's say Minnesota 4.5.
Okay.
And -180 to the over.
Okay.
Why not make it 5? You just because they want to collect.
Why not make
they want to make you?
Why not move the half up?
Yeah.
Why not move the hook? Because people want to win or lose. They don't like to tie.
Okay.
That would be my guess. I don't know. I don't have a good answer there.
So you think people rather pay the 180?
I think people would rather pay the 180 to win than to get 110 or 150 and push.
Do you think people rather pay the 180 rather than push at 5?
Yes. I think they would rather win at -180. Most people who gamble, it is, like you said, about the action. They like winning or losing.
How many, outside of a random money line, which Okay.
Mhm.
How many people do you think like to get into the 70, 80 cents on the 20 cents on the dollar?
Genuinely, and I
Genuinely who?
no, I could be
Genuinely
wrong.
no one?
No, listen, I could be wrong on this. From the people I know, the casual gamblers, because I don't know a lot of sharks or whatever you want to call them, like the casual gamblers, a lot of them barely pay attention to that. Casual gamblers. And that's what most people are.
So that's why Vegas is doing the darn thing.
Yes. Because people don't know what they're looking at. They're picking like I can't tell you how many times people text me and either are asking for clarification or on something or are asking for a pick. And I'm like, hey, I think this side, but I don't like the value because it's minus whatever. And he's like, oh, but you think this is going to win? A lot of people don't, casual gamblers a lot of times do not even understand or care about what that minus 180 versus minus 150 or minus 110. That's my experience. People who know what they're talking about and people like you that know what you're talking about, you care about the minus 180. I don't think casual gamblers do.
I just don't think but I think a lot of people that are in that field know that that's not very advantageous.
The people in the casinos or people betting?
People betting. I think
people that you hang with.
I think 50 cents on the dollar is. You don't think most people understand return on investment?
I don't think casual gamblers look at gambling that way.
Okay.
I think that to me, most people that I know that gamble, I would consider casual gamblers just want to win or lose.
Okay.
That's my understanding of it.
My man RP is not happy.
What's RP mad about now?
I don't think he's mad. He said, isn't the entire argument opinion-based? How do you quantify one head coach as another without getting into the weeds and assistant coach? Oh, okay, fine. This is more Robinian stuff. I'm okay with that. But just say that. Don't use an opinion and pawn it off as fact. That's the thing. Don't use an opinion and pawn it off as fact. That's the whole kit and caboodle of, doesn't matter if it's Hurley or Missoula or Coach Rule. Like, don't let how we feel about somebody skew any like real data. If it's just an opinion, say, hey, just my opinion. But the thing about it is when we mount these arguments, we'll take like this abstract idea, and that's the business you'll stand on. Like that part I can't really.
Yeah, that's fine.
I can't mesh with that. But it happens all the time.
It does. It's sometimes really difficult, and I'm not calling anybody else out because I do it too. I think it's sometimes really difficult to separate how we feel about something versus what we know about something.
Was it Moylan that said you're entitled to your own set of opinions, but not your own set of facts?
I don't know who said it, but it's true. And that's fine. And like with Hurley's a great example. I'm very clear. I don't like Hurley. That skews how I view him. I do not think his offense is that complex. Like, I don't think that might be my opinion, and that's fine. But me not liking him is not informing that opinion.
Can I do a thing with Iowa with coaches and being in the right place and managing the right coaching the right team? Don't you think that's Coach Ferentz in Iowa?
I think that is a place where he is uniquely suited, yes.
Hey, so what did we do when Coach Rule came in and replaced Coach Frost? Did we talk about the
uniquely good fit?
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. I even said this a couple weeks ago.
So that's like, again, you said, I think the safe way you said it, is we can give it in a percentage. But isn't that what we're really after, though?
Yeah, you're looking for the uniquely right fit for the time you're in.
You're looking for fit.
Yeah.
We'll get into the tactical part of it later on, right?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay.
I can live. I mean, I can live with that.
Because I just don't want to be dismissive of it in one area, like what Missoula did in Boston for a really, really good team, and then
it's a really good team,
and then champion Matt Rule. Because you know what you never talk about with Coach Rule?
Tactics.
Yeah. You know what you don't talk about with Coach Satterfield?
Tactics.
Okay.
Now,
I just don't like.
I will say some people were critical of Satterfield's tactics last year, but again,
they weren't. You're not qualified. This is going to sound weird. We're not qualified enough to talk about how they're trying to approach a passing game
when we didn't have a quarterback.
if you don't have people that can execute it. Now,
fair.
Now, what I will say is fair is if it's 3rd and 2 and you think we should run the ball and we throw the ball, that's fair.
Sure.
But there's a difference between technical and tactical. So like that,
technical is like execution.
Yes.
Tactical is like game plan.
Yes.
Game call, like play calling.
Yeah,
that's fair.
So like that's the distinction that I make. And I just don't want it to be back to the goose and the gander. I don't want one to be good for the goose and not for the gander.
Yeah. I think you could make the argument that
I think a lot of coaching is incredibly about fit.
Yeah, it's a lot like quarterback situation dependent, right? I mean, I make that argument about
nobody says Kalen DeBoer isn't a good coach. Do you know what they say? I wonder if he'll be a good fit in Bama.
Yeah. I have no idea.
Right? Like,
I don't know if anybody's a good fit following Saban. Honestly, I don't.
But
is there a good fit following Saban?
My point is I think we discount it.
The fit part?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could make an argument, and I wouldn't push back on it, that fit should be numbers 1, 2, and 3 on the list. Right? Because I'm assuming a certain amount of football acumen, right? I'm assuming you're not hiring someone who doesn't know what they're talking about and doesn't know what they're doing. So if you get the fit right, then you're probably well on your way to being successful. Like there's probably a lot of coaches, there's definitely a lot of coaches that have a better offensive acumen than Kirk Ferentz. Fair?
Fair.
Is there anybody who would be a better fit in Iowa?
Oh, I don't know about better. It's so again,
I'm not saying there's not other people that could be good fits in Iowa.
When you've won that long for that many years, I would be very hesitant to jump to better.
Right.
Could there be another good fit for Iowa? Oh, I'm sure they're out there.
But that's kind of my point, right? Is despite having what we would consider at best an average offensive acumen in Kirk Ferentz, even though he comes from that side of the ball originally.
But I think it's wildly undersold the fact that he plays in a style that's conducive to
the
his
talent
to his supply and demand.
Yeah. But again, that's a
wildly underappreciated.
That's a good fit because he's willing to.
And there's a couple of other guys that are coming into the scene. Well, we'll see.
Lincoln Riley,
if they can adjust. Lincoln Riley's one.
Mm-hmm.
Don't undersell what's going on in Madison either. I will be very, very curious to see if Fickell.
And I'm a big Luke Fickell guy.
I am too.
He's the
and I think he has a fantastic staff. Now we'll see.
Before I knew anything about Coach Rule,
if the ideology, if how they want to do this thing
works at Madison,
fits with what happens, August through late November.
Can I throw a weird one at you?
I mean, there's a lot of those guys.
Can I throw a weird one at you?
Yeah.
Could I make the argument that in a different circumstance, Bill Callahan could have been a very successful college football coach?
That's an easy one for me because I think, and I didn't know him better than most, but I paid attention to
incredible football acumen.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with that. If Coach Callahan had predominantly upperclassmen or a very mature college football team,
get old, stay old,
he would thrive.
Yeah.
Just not sure. He's just not a 18 to 19-year-old guy.
Yeah.
But his
but again,
I would make the argument. But again, that's more fit than
I would make the argument.
That's more fit than
really tough fit at Nebraska.
You just
especially
talking about
especially at the time,
like socially.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Socially, the way he came off,
100%.
The way he dealt with the media,
100%.
especially for that time in Nebraska football, coming off of what we were coming off of.
Do you remember the article? I think Chattel had an article. I gotta text him to make sure my facts are right. I'm pretty sure he came out with an article about how the degree of difficulty it was to get into Memorial Stadium during Bill Callahan's tenure.
Oh yeah,
where he was kind of waiting in the lobby.
Yeah.
Am I misremembering?
No, I remember. I don't remember a specific article, but I remember stories.
I'm pretty sure, right? And that was like 07, 08.
I remember stories about how it was like a fortress. It was locked down.
So, however many years later, what's 24 minus 7? 17?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So 17 years later, we're doing Father's Day stories. Right? And I told you, like, when's the last time
that would have made any sense?
Yeah. But do you know why it makes sense?
Because of the way
it's certainly
yes. Because of the fit of Matt Rule here at Nebraska.
It's certainly not the X's and O's.
Yeah, because you could make.
I'm not gonna say it's overrated, but it's just weird. I remember
it's over talked about, maybe.
Yes.
Not overrated because you need it.
Yes,
but it's over talked about.
6 years ago in this job, before they had even won a title, 5 years ago, people asked me whose offense I wanted. What national offense do you want? Do you know who I said?
Who?
And I'll say it today. I'll still say it today. I said Georgia. Oh, why? Do you know Georgia's offense in these big games? You know, it's like they can't throw. They don't do this. And listen, I want run action. I want to run the football.
It's a pretty classic pro style offense.
And I want to take my shots down the field.
Right? It's a pretty classic pro style offense.
That was the offense that I wanted then. Yeah. And I've always maintained that.
Yeah.
So schematically, I'm not like, oh my gosh, did you see that concept where they ran the little choice route with the little China and then the dig behind it and this, that? I don't, because how many people can you really have those conversations with?
Not a lot.
So I'm just trying to meet people where they're at. Right. And the same way, like if I sat at, and this has happened to me before, like let's say I go talk to Chins or Tony White or somebody. Like there's going to be some things until I get the verbiage, I'm going to be like, dang, I don't know.
Until you get on the same page language wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's why I think like unlocking Gifford to see him operate at maximum capacity isn't tactical.
Yeah. I think there's some of it that's, how would I describe that? I think it's a lot of it's mental, right? You want to have him so comfortable in the system that he plays as fast as he is.
That's what you want out of any player, right? That's why we liked.
But he's the guy that we've.
And I don't want to butcher his name. I just call him Mad Mike because he's like the scientist. C.H.
Cholowinski. Cholowinski, yeah.
Right? That's why.
Mitch.
Yeah, Mitch Cholowinski.
I like just unlocking guys because I think like that's the whole key to one of the greatest interviews we ever had was Barrett. Was it Barrett? I want to say Robbins. Who was the good lineman from Bama?
Oh, Barrett Sally?
No, he's the talking head.
Okay.
Shane, who's the center? Barrett Jones.
Barrett Jones. So that's our guy.
You know, he said the greatest asset Saban had.
What's that?
Deprogramming guys. You think Saban would look at that as a slight?
No. I think
when I hear stuff like that, and then I kind of just experience wise, like nobody's ever going to tell you like Coach Slamanji is like the greatest X's and O's guy. He'll tell you he's not. Larry Martin's never going to tell you they're like the greatest X's and O's guy. But we just undersell the ability to motivate and fit with guys in the program. That's why when you say give it percentage, you give it whatever percentage you want. I think it's really, really high.
That's fine.
And I think we're Jaylen Brown and Jason, you can't have Jason Tatum say day before yesterday, oh, it'd be nice to win game 5, but if we don't, hey, we got another crack at it. You have to be a certain kind of coach to have your star players say that.
Yeah, you got to be a certain kind of coach that's not going to want to smack him in the head. That's DB.
I think that'd be frowned upon.
Maybe. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's 1DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage, live from the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We're going to get to something we actually planned today, and that's quarterbacks. ESPN, about a week ago, I don't know, how long has it been on my rundown, DB? A minute.
Probably 2 weeks. No, at 10, yeah.
Like a week, 10 days.
Yeah.
It has been 2 weeks on the dot. ESPN put out a ranking.
Was it toothpicks or matches that were dropped on the floor?
Definitely matches.
Yeah, sounds about right.
The ESPN.
Hello, Jerome.
ESPN put out a tiered ranking of the quarterbacks, all the quarterback situations in the FBS, all 134 of them. Nebraska. So there were actually 19 tiers that they put in, and that includes everybody from top of the pile, Georgia, Alabama, to the lowest of the lows in FBS football. Everybody in FBS football. And Nebraska was in tier 4. And I'll tell you what that means in a second. But before we get there, I want to play a little trivia game with you here, DB.
Oh, Lord.
So let's start with tier 1.
Okay.
If you had to guess, there are 4 programs in tier 1. What program, and this is the whole quarterback situation, the whole room. What programs do you think are listed in tier 1 of the college football quarterback rankings?
I need the criteria. Is this putting quarterbacks in the league?
No, this is in terms of the best quarterback situation. So think returning production, depth.
Okay.
This is not necessarily pro prospects.
Okay. Let's go Georgia.
Georgia is in there with Carson Beck, Jaden Rashada, and Gunnar Stockton.
Alabama.
Alabama is there with Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson.
USC.
USC is not there.
Wow.
You'll lose a lot. You don't have a ton of returning production there.
Oh, so production. So production
Wow.
is a thing.
Yes, but not like pro prospect. So college production is there, is factor.
Okay, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma's not there. They lost Dylan Gabriel. That was a big one for them.
I don't want to keep making guesses because I'm losing the game. So I have 2 out of the first 4.
You have 2 of the first 4.
2 right, 2 wrong. How many you gonna give me?
How many more guesses? I'll give you 4 guesses to get the next 2. You got 2 in the first 4. I'll give you 2 for the second
4 to make 2. So let's go.
There's a big one you're missing here. There's one I could make an argument against, but there's a big one you're missing.
Ole Miss.
Who am I missing?
Not Ole Miss.
God, they stockpiled quarterbacks.
Had a very good run last year and is a very famous backup.
Oh, Texas.
Texas. We got one more.
I keep forgetting he's back.
Quinn?
How maligned was he the first year and a half? And I still don't know if he's that dude.
I don't either. I don't trust him.
All right. Let me recalibrate. Georgia.
Georgia's there.
Bama.
Bama's there.
Texas.
Texas is there. And we're waiting on one more. I've said one of their guys' names already.
So it's wherever Gabriel ended up.
Yep.
And he is at Oregon.
He is at Oregon. That's the one I could make an argument against because they're Gillen.
I like how I did that, Shane?
Man down.
I get Gabriel has a ton of returning production, but they're counting Dante Moore, who did play some, was highly touted. I don't know if he's good or not.
They're going to be good.
They're going to be really good. I don't know if I'd put
that team as a whole is going to be good.
Out of those 4 teams, though, they kind of feel like the outlier of those 4.
Yeah. So the thing about Gabriel, and I thought about it when Tim said it yesterday, Verghese, when he talked about quarterbacks and their accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing I worry about with Gabriel. Because even when Oklahoma land-based Nebraska, how many open throws that guy miss?
Decent amount.
Remember we thought Oklahoma was going to be really, really good that year, and it was like,
yeah, they ended up like
they're
6-6 or
that
whatever.
Good,
yeah,
right. So I think for him, it's like, and in Lanning's offense, you're getting vertical.
Oh, 100%. So maybe, I think that's probably why they include Dante Moore there because maybe they like his skill set for the offense a little bit better.
So there's only 4 schools, huh?
That are in that group. Yeah.
Sounds a lot like the Metro.
In terms of returning quarterbacks?
Yes.
Yeah, there's not a lot.
Yes.
There's not a lot there. And I would make the argument here. There's a team that I would give this team as much credit as I would Oregon, but they're all the way down in tier 3.
Clemson?
Ohio State.
Well, we are assuming with them. So I was.
But are you taking Gabriel over Howard? Because that's the.
So let me back up just for a second. You know what I've been wanting to say about Ohio State?
What's that?
Why are we just assuming that they're going to be this juggernaut? I know they're. I'm going to answer my own question, but I'm going to pose it with a question.
Yeah.
I know that they're loaded, but they haven't beat Michigan in 3 years.
Mm-hmm. And
this isn't the best quarterback of that bunch.
But Michigan's down. We think Michigan's down.
Okay.
The general consensus is that whether they are or not,
fair.
But the general public believes
their
Michigan's
win total
down.
is still at 10 or greater, right?
9.5.
Okay. But I don't know. this isn't their best collection of wide receivers either.
Fair. But out of that group, do you trust Will Howard more than you trust Dylan Gabriel?
But do you understand my point, though?
Oh, 100%. So and I don't know that Will Howard's
we're making the argument that they're the consensus, but I'm not sure this is the best that they've even offered without having gotten it done before. Now, is it relative to everybody else?
Well, it's relative to themselves. They've become their own benchmark. So, like, you're comparing them to past quarterback situations, past wide receiver situations.
I'm comparing where they are in the national perception heading into this year versus the pole position they've been in some other years, given their talent.
I'm talking more about where they are in the Big Ten, where I think they're Big Ten. I don't think there's a lot of question there about who's the best team.
Well, I tell you, careful.
All right, we'll see. But let me go back to the quarterback things for a second, right?
Careful.
Would you take Will Howard, what you know about Will Howard, or Dylan Gabriel, what you know about Dylan Gabriel?
Ooh, that is a fantastic question.
Because Dylan Gabriel's in Tier 1. Well, Oregon's in Tier 1 with Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore. Ohio State's in Tier 3.
It seems like too big of a gap.
Yeah.
Although D. Moore's got a chance.
Yeah, but so does Julian Sayin and Aaron Nolan.
Not as high on San as some.
Okay.
But okay. Like we're splitting hairs now. I want to do that for the sake of the discussion.
And they've got a couple options that are touted as highly as.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I don't want to split hairs to.
And you've got Devin Brown, who's been there for a little bit at least, and is a more experienced backup in terms of being in the system.
I think the tiers are too far apart.
I would argue Oregon's not a 1. If Oregon and Ohio State were both a 2, I'm fine.
Fair.
But
would I take Gabriel over
Howard?
Yes. Yes.
I think it's close.
I would take Gabriel.
Here's my question about both of them, though. I don't know that either one of them. You just mentioned Gabriel maybe not being a great fit with Lanning. I don't know.
I don't know about fit. I mean, he's
skill set.
He's going to have to. You can't leave as many plays out there on the field as he does.
And I don't know what Will Howard looks like in Ohio State's offense.
Now that I don't worry about with him because, I just don't know if he gets you over the top against light competition.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, is he
that's kind of
clear upgrade over Kyle McCord? It's a different skill set.
Yes.
Yes, clear upgrade?
Yes.
Okay.
McCord left a lot out there.
Fair?
Left a lot out there.
We looked at Will Howard
But the thing about it is, I think Ohio State should be able to run the ball this year.
Well, they're going to have to run it with Will Howard because that's probably what he does best.
They've got a nice little stable they built up at running back. If they can stay healthy back there. But I mean, we're making a lot of assumptions about them.
We are. That's fine. I'm not disagreeing there. I think we're making a lot of assumptions.
I get the roster, though.
I think we're making a lot of assumptions about their quarterback room, too. What does Will Howard look like against?
I like him. I probably like him better than most.
I like him. I don't love him.
No, again, I think it's going to – I have to be careful because I think we made the mistake with a top 10 pick. We didn't love McCarthy either. And I liked him a ton.
I like McCarthy more than I like Howard. I mean, my issue with Howard is I think he got inflated because he was the best quarterback on the transfer market.
Remember how, though, that we kind of knocked McCarthy for what he was asked to do within that offense?
Sure.
Howard could do that if that's the way Ohio State wants to play.
Well, I was going to say, my concern is
they can run the ball, though. That'll be up to them.
My concern is that they may ask him to do more.
Well, Chip likes to run it.
Chip does like to run it. People forget. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Eric Luallen. He's the baseball voice for Florida State.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Whitaker has his pitch. Checks the runner, now sets. Here it comes. Swing and a miss! Swing and a miss! Ball game, Knowles win! Knowles win! The dog pile ensues! The Florida State Seminoles win! The Seminoles win! Fire up that grill, throw on some steaks. 24th time in program history the Noles are headed to Omaha, Nebraska for the College World Series.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. And joining us now is Eric Luallen. He is the radio voice of FSU baseball. Eric, how are you this morning? Eric, you there?
Shane, you got him up?
Hello.
Hey, Eric,
there he is. Eric, good morning, man. Long time no talk. How you been?
Oh, I'm doing all right. How about you guys?
Oh, we're hanging in there. I almost hate to bring you back on a day like this, considering how long we've been talking to you here in Omaha with you guys seeing my North Carolina Tar Heels today. But for these next 12 minutes, man, we're gonna be thick as thieves again.
Oh, Eric, you still there?
I'll try and.
Oh, there he is. There he is. We got you back.
Sorry about that.
You good?
No worries, Eric. We appreciate you joining us this morning. So I wanted to kind of get your feel on this season in general, right? Because year 2 under Link Jarrett, obviously last year did not go the way Florida State and a lot of the people nationally thought it was going to. Big turnaround this year. How much of this, in your mind, was expected versus were expectations maybe tampered a little bit after the way last year went down?
You know, I think it's hard to sit there and say, yeah, this is what we expected, because you go through 23 wins and you retool most of the roster in the offseason. I don't think anybody could have predicted that this team ends up in Omaha. So I would have to say that we definitely came in well above expectations for the year. You know, you did start to see in the fall that this probably was going to be a pretty good baseball team. But again, you know, to get all the way out here and have the kind of year we had, I don't know that anybody really could have expected that.
Eric, it's interesting. We and you're kind of in the same vein as an alum. You bring Link Jarrett back. How much of kind of the trajectory or the arc that this has been is just because of the familiarity and the understanding of the history? Is that understated or overstated if a guy's going to right the ship so quickly after a shaky first year? How about his level of understanding of the program?
I think that has to factor into it. You know, he's been a part of this, and I think it's the understanding of it, but also being able to sell it. He can sell being a part of this program and a part of the history of Florida State and all of that much better than somebody who's never been a part of this place. Mm-hmm. And he was a part of it as a player. He was a part of it as an assistant coach in 2003. He lived it. He quite literally lived blocks away from Hauser. He played high school ball right in the shadow of Hauser. His school is right down the street. So I think uniquely he has an ability to sell it that some other coaches may not have had.
Eric, you've got a pretty unique perspective on this team and this university as well. Obviously, playing football for Florida State and then becoming radio broadcaster and part of the Seminole Radio Network. You know, I'm curious how you kind of process. There's sort of this elephant in the room with Florida State baseball, right? Been a really great program for a really long time. You mentioned it. We heard in the call that you bringing them in from the Super Regional, 24 College World Series appearances, right? But there's this elephant in the room of them having never broken through to win the national title. Is that something that you're aware of Coach Jarrett addressing directly with his team? Like, how much do they talk about that, if at all?
I don't specifically have any knowledge on how much that's discussed. I'm sure that it's brought up. You hear the players from time to time mention wanting to be a part of the first team that's won it. So, you know that people are aware of it. I don't know that you really harp on it that much, but you certainly want people to know that it's the case because that's part of the sales job is hey, come on here. You want to be a part of the first time that this ever gets done at this university, then come on and be a part of that.
Eric, it seems like I'm watching. There's two teams in particular, and not to say that Sully doesn't have his guys gritty and all of that, and that's his personality. But if we're just talking like loose, kind of fun, you know, Minge kind of has Kentucky. They have his temperament. FSU, I'm not sure about Jarrett. We talked to Tibbs the other day. I look at the style of Jaime and Cantu, and that doesn't seem like Link Jarrett, but he is really good at allowing those guys to just be free-flowing and kind of loving. How close is the connection between Link's personality and kind of what we see on the field from their temperament standpoint?
I think Link, he walks a pretty good line between intensity and just being one of the guys.
Yeah.
And I think he knows when to turn that off and turn it on. And Link has tried to tell people, and I've heard it out here since we've got to Omaha. He's tried to tell people, hey, look, I'm not as intense as you guys think I am. I can hear people connected with Florida State scoffing when he says that. But he does have that intensity turned on a lot, but he can turn that off and he can enjoy himself and have a good time. And so I think that he really, I think he gets that in this day and age of baseball, you just kind of got to let guys be who they are. And I think this team reflects that.
We're talking with Eric Luallen, the radio voice of Florida State baseball. So let's get into specifics a little bit as Florida State's trying to work their way back through the losers bracket to get a rematch with Tennessee. How do you see their pitching in terms of their bullpen setting up to be able to kind of take the long way to hopefully make it to that championship series?
Yeah, so we're going to go with Andrew Armstrong today, and he's a veteran guy. He's a senior. He's been around 4 years in this program, and he's one of those guys that if you look back at his past, I think his longest start came at the end of the season last year. They threw him on the mound in a Thursday game at the end of the regular season against Louisville, and he really produced a great start. If they get that kind of outing out of him today, then certainly I think the bullpen itself is relatively rested.
Yeah.
We really haven't used a whole lot of guys here in Omaha. So and with the day off in between, the guys that have been used can bounce back. I think Connor Whitaker's probably the one guy that if he's available, it's going to be pretty limited. Since he threw 71 pitches on Friday, 3 days rest. Could he bounce back from that? Probably. Could he give you a whole lot, like a long outing? I doubt it. So that's really probably the only guy that's limited or not available today. So I think the bullpen is fine. You've just got to get Armstrong fairly deep into this game. And, is fairly deep, is that 6 innings? I don't know if it's 6, but you certainly don't want to get him bounced out of there in 1 or 2.
Yeah, fortunately for you guys, as I'm talking to the voice and former player, and my co-host happens to be a huge Florida State fan. I'm a Carolina guy. I would make Florida State the slight favorite, primarily because Carolina's offense has not really been Carolina's. I mean, it's a top 20 ranked offense. They haven't been great over the last month. Do you think that the difference in this one, because I think their bullpen is in good shape as well, is the big hitting, the timely big hitting, which Florida State has shown the ability to do? Is that the difference for you?
I hope so.
It seems like it on paper.
Yeah, and I was just looking at numbers the other day, and I tweeted a bunch of stuff out that some of the runs these guys are on. If that continues, I think it certainly bodes well for Florida State. Jaime Ferrer's in the middle of a hitting streak where he's just really cruising. Cam Smith is hitting over 500 like the last 6 games. Dingus has been on fire the entire postseason. Lodis has reached base safely in 20 straight. So, up and down the lineup, I think just about every guy, really except for Tibbs, has some kind of streak going, whether it's a hitting streak or a reaching base safely. So when you look at that, and again, can they keep that going? That's going to be the key. But I certainly think that you're going to have to go out there with the idea that you've got to outscore the other team rather than think that you can get into a 2-1 ball game and win it.
Eric, at some point we're going to have you on, and I'm just going to ask you about Florida State football stories for an entire segment. I just want to hear all the Bobby Bowden stories. But
I'll be happy to do it.
Unfortunately, we are out of time for today, so I'm holding you to that. We will give you a call back. And I don't know how much you talk to the players, but if you do, give a shout out to Jaime Ferrer for me. I'm also a type 1 diabetic, so I love that dude. Awesome. Appreciate him doing it. And I will
definitely let him know.
If you can tell me where he got that super cool Florida State pump cover, let me know, because that thing is awesome.
I'll see if I can find that out.
I'll message you. I appreciate you.
I appreciate it, Eric. Thank you.
All right, man.
That's Eric Luallen. He is the
that's pretty cool
radio baseball play-by-play voice for the Florida State Seminoles. We'll be back.
Oh, Lord.
We'll be back with Mike J. Schaefer from Husker 24/7.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio, covering Nebraska football and recruiting for 24/7 Sports. Here is Mike J. Schaefer.
Yeah, that's a grown-ass man right there.
Mike Schaefer.
I don't know. There could be bacon involved.
Mike Schaefer.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank Brian Edwards for me.
Here is Mike Schaefer.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We are joined now by the one and only Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7. Schaefer, what's going on, man?
Oh, not a lot. It's just another day in June. Things are busy, busiest month for me sometimes. But it's been good. It's been good.
Schaefer, we've been talking a ton about like quarterbacks and the offers, and you had the great last week. It was kind of, not necessarily quarterbacks gaming the system, but how the eval can be kind of tough because of just showing up kind of like on the banquet circuit. Do you think with Coach Thomas and Nebraska's kind of how they're recruiting quarterbacks down the road now past Dillon, that we're going to be closer to getting similar types of quarterbacks on the roster? It seems like over the past 15 years, 20 years, we've had such a wide variance of the types of quarterbacks within the same roster. You think we're getting closer to a type of quarterback?
I don't necessarily think so. I don't think that TJ Lateef and Dylan Raiola are that similar. And then as you sort of continue down the line, a lot of it, I think, is there's just certain benchmarks or certain things that Glenn Thomas and Matt Rule and Marcus Satterfield are going to want from a quarterback. And it might just come in a different package with other talents and other skill sets. But I don't know that I don't even know if you were to just ask a very basic, describe what Nebraska is looking for in their quarterback. I mean, I think, the obvious is you want a guy who has good arm strength and accuracy because they're going to rely on being able to throw the football. You want someone who can run, play action and has the ability to freeze a defense with that. But then beyond that, I mean, I think they would be comfortable if it's a person that is, more fleet of foot and you can utilize their legs at times. I don't think that's a requirement. And just like I think they would be fine if it's someone who isn't that quick, but has the ability to at least avoid pressure or can extend a play a little bit. So I just think there's different molds to how they're going to build it. And I think that's probably the right approach in the quarterback room. I just don't know that you can I don't know that you can say we want every quarterback to look like X and then have a successful recruiting endeavor, because the quarterback position continually changes and the skill sets of these players continually change. And so I think you just sort of have to have a few things that you want from every quarterback you bring in, and then the rest of the package could look wildly different from year to year.
Is it as simple to say as if a guy is swapped out or goes down with an injury that the offense doesn't have to stylistically change a ton? Is that safe?
I think that would be sort of where you want the arm talent. It doesn't, again, have to be, not everybody's going to have Dylan Raiola's arm talent. But I think that you want to be able to run similar plays, yes, regardless who's in at quarterback. And then that gets into the whole discussion of how different the offense might look in 24 with Dylan Raiola than it did in 23 with Heinrich Harburg. But I also think a lot of that has to do with the personnel around him too. I think that you can run a different offense when you have Jamal Banks and Isaiah Nair and another year of Jalen Lloyd, and you've got maybe a deeper wide receiver core than you had last year. Certainly when Xavier Betts left the team, Isaiah Garcia-Castaneda gets hurt right away, and you lose Marcus Washington in the Illinois game. So I think some of what 23 ended up looking like was byproduct of what they could do and what they actually had personnel-wise beyond even just a quarterback.
Schaefer, wanted to get some updates on some of the guys that were in over the weekend. Obviously, a lot of big linemen on both sides of the ball were coming in. I'm not going to try and pronounce a name here, but any intel on how it went for
Tapu?
No, the Alafotulu?
SJ. How it went for SJ?
The Bishop Gorman guy. How did it go for the Bishop Gorman
SJ?
guy?
Yeah, I mean, BC was able to catch up with him, and it sounded like, another one of these good visits. Nebraska has a pretty good relationship going on with Bishop Gorman, and, we saw it with Xander Ruggiero being added. I think that Donovan Raiola has done a nice job sort of appearing, during the evaluation periods at Bishop Gorman and getting FaceTime in. I mean, they had 3 official visitors already from that school this year. And, a lot of what he was telling BC is similar to what we hear consistently when people come in. It's a very family-oriented vibe. I mean, that's essentially what he said. And that's what they want to do. And then obviously you want to show off your facilities and you want to show off, what you think you're going to be as a program going forward. And you want to blend that family vibe with the idea that you're also this sort of untapped rocket ship that's just ready to launch, and people have the opportunity to be a part of something as it's on its way up, from the ground level. I mean, that's definitely been a big part of the pitch for several years now. And I think he's receptive to it. But again, big difference between getting the guy in for an official visit and then getting the yes out of a top 100 recruit in the country, one of the top offensive linemen in the country, a guy that you're having to go up against a number of teams for. But that Raiola relationship, especially with Bishop Gorman, I wouldn't rule it out. Right now, it looks like we have Miami as a leader on the 24/7 Sports crystal ball. So we'll see how that goes.
Hey, so before we get too far away, because you mentioned his name, what am I missing with Ruggiero and like kind of how I fell into their lap isn't how it happened, but he seems like the tape looks better than how they got him. Is there something to that story that I'm missing?
I think that people did not view him on the same level of a lot of his teammates who are, 4-star offensive linemen. He was the one senior on a group of offensive linemen that, they have 4 other recruits now here in 26. I think the other guy's 27. And if you talk to some people who look at the film and threw it on, they would tell you they thought Ruggiero was the best tackle on the team at times last year.
I thought that.
Yeah. And I know from talking to various people, Nebraska was pretty excited that they kind of just stole him. I mean, after one conversation I had last February and before we ran our Super 6, I made sure I put him in my sleeper spot just based on the way that, someone who would know was talking about Nebraska's level of excitement of what he could be and just sort of the developable nature of that frame. I think he's a guy that, in a couple years could be a tackle to know the name of here in Nebraska's program. And so I think there was just a lot of excitement that Arizona State and Washington State showed interest, but kind of were holding him back as a backup option. And Nebraska really sort of came through and pushed hard. And then there was a little bit of a numbers problem, and they were able to kind of figure it out with what you would call a Nebraska, NIL scholarship. So I think it's going to work out well. And I would look for him to be a guy who potentially, here in a couple of years is knocking on the door, potentially to replace somebody like Teddy Prohaska.
There's 2 guys in that class I think are flying under the radar with how they got him. I think DeForino, the DB that they have. I like both those guys, Rogerelli and is it DeForino? Help me with that.
I'm going to have to, because the name is not clicking for me, but
we're
in that point where I buried the 24 class in favor of knowing everything about 2025. So how dare you ask me about something?
And it is June, which, like, if you're trying to obviously following and covering Nebraska has been an extremely busy month for you. So you're always forgiven with recruiting.
Yeah, June is the month. I mean, June has become the month of the recruiting calendar. They're going to have 20 plus official visitors between last weekend and this upcoming weekend. I think that we could be, on a roll of potential commitments starting this week. We saw Malcolm Simpson jump in. I think there's some more potential announcements that could be coming here through the middle of the week. And then you're going to get into a visit weekend where you have some guys that I think Nebraska is bringing them in here to essentially get them to say yes. And so, it could be Could be a good week for Nebraska to go from, say, 11 commits to, 14, 15, and then here by the middle of July, they could be closing in on 18 to 20. And so I just think it happens relatively quickly. And I think June is going to be the time of year where they really can get a lot of work done and then set themselves up for sort of the rest of the cycle and to kick the ball forward into the 2026s and 2027s.
We're talking with Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7. I know you kind of hinted at a few more commits. Are there any names you are able to tell us that maybe we should be looking at more specifically than others?
Yeah, there's a defensive back coming in this weekend, Noah King from Ohio. I definitely think Nebraska, if the visit goes well, I definitely think Nebraska could close out with an addition to their defensive secondary there. And then the one I mentioned him last week, and I still haven't put in a crystal ball. I've been talking about putting in a crystal ball for like 3 months. I'm not sure why I'm just hesitant on doing it, but Houston Kahaina Torres, the offensive lineman from Hawaii, I just think he has so much respect for the Raiola family, so much respect for Nebraska football. And he was being recruited as far out as Scott Frost's staff. So he just has a lot of interest in Nebraska. And I think that he wants to be part of this class and part of this offensive line group. Another name to keep in mind, Raheem Hutchins Jr., wide receiver from Shadow Creek in Pearland, Texas, school that Nebraska's recruited. Braylon Prude came from there last year. This is a guy that I know Garrett McGuire has been working on pretty much all spring. And I think it's just down to Nebraska and I believe one other school. So I wouldn't be surprised if a commitment could come pretty quickly after the weekend if everybody feels good about things. Yeah, I think it's like Nebraska and Memphis at this point.
Hey, Schaefer, how much scuttlebutt? We've been talking about him the last couple of days just because he's fresh off his visit, and he leaves Friday. He's going to miss the second day of our 7-on-7 tournament this week with Christian Jones and how his recruitment has gone.
Yeah, I actually talked with Christian on Monday night. He gave me a call and we talked for a little while, and it's one of those things that's always.
Know what's funny? I'm going to pay you I'm going to pay you probably your only compliment because they cut up some bending bites where I said something nice about you yesterday, and that was one too many for the week. But he did say that he doesn't, in his words, mind talking to you. He can see why I like you.
Oh, well, that's nice. I appreciate that. I'll take that. That's a win. In recruiting coverage, if they don't mind talking to you, that's a big win.
And he's tough, right? Like he's not going to be for everybody in terms of covering. So I felt like that kind of spoke volumes.
Yeah, I think it helps that I don't try to blow anybody's phone up. I think that's usually the strategy that tends to work well for me in the end. Maybe not at the beginning.
Because he'll shut that thing off.
Yeah. So talked with Christian last night, and it's always fascinating. You have these guys, and Christian's been a recruit since a freshman year of high school. He's been to Nebraska so many times, he didn't need to go through the facilities. He didn't need to do the car wash thing. He knows all about the history and all of that. And so a lot of it was just being able to spend time with Tony White, spend time with Coach Dvorak, spend time with Matt Rule. And I think he feels very good about the plan that they would have for him. I think he feels good about what the future would look like at Nebraska. All indications that I've got from him or from those around him is that he just wants Nebraska to show him something before he's ready to completely shut this thing down. And there's some other schools in the mix. Miami's starting to get involved in the recruitment. That's kind of an interesting one to me. You could see a visit there potentially in July. He's going to go to Oklahoma next week. But I don't know that I would say that there's a team that I view at this point that's a really close second for Nebraska. It feels like Nebraska's biggest competition is itself. So if the Huskers don't take care of business early in the year, they might lose Christian Jones because he doesn't necessarily – I think that he wants to see them win. I mean, think about it. I think the last winning season of his lifetime, he was in third grade. So, like, I think it's – in some instances, there's definitely recruits like this that everything sounds great. I need to see it play out before I'm ready to put my name on the line for your team. And I think that's where we're at with Christian Jones.
Yeah, it's interesting because people want to compare, and I don't refute, confirm, or deny, but I will say this out loud to you today. You know, people compare their recruiting Caleb and Christian, and why maybe some things on the surface look the same, they're for completely different reasons. It's not even close. Like, I wouldn't even compare the two really, except for the timeline in which they maybe that they maybe would make a college decision. They're for vastly different reasons. He's just a kid, like you said, that he goes by. It's like when I give him plays or we'll go through schemes and stuff, he visualizes outcomes before we do it, right? Like, he'll visualize reps before we do it. And I think he's just one of those guys that tries to give all angles of how the future could play out before he does anything. I mean, it took him a year to like me, which, some people never come around. So, I mean.
I was going to say, that's a relatively short amount of time for some
individuals. Still working on it.
Props to him, but it's just his personality. Like, I can't explain it to people any simpler than that. He's just, it takes a lot from the trust standpoint.
Yeah, well, I think there's something to be said for doing your due diligence, and he also strikes me as someone who's going to make this decision once. It's not like I'm going to make my decision today, and then 2 months from now, something shiny and new has my attention, and I'm going to go with that. I just don't think that's who he is. And so I think part of it is I want to get all the information I possibly can, sit back and think, and then make the decision that I think is best for me. I mean, that's what it seems like with him. And the reason it seems so different is a lot of your in-state kids have already made a decision by the time he's looking at it, which would be, in the season. But Caleb didn't, and that's why those comparisons come up.
As Ravi can attest, I was talking to him yesterday off air, and he doesn't pay any attention to who else is in the fold. Like, not who's being recruited, not who's already there. Like, that's not his thing. Even when he left Burke, the natural assumption is that he would just follow Coach Lamanji to Westside. He even took 2 months to figure that out. You know what I mean? Like,
methodical.
I just don't want him knocked for his personality, because it just is what it is. And it's not I guess I'm kind of trying to protect him just personally from he's stringing Nebraska along, or we know he's going to eventually say, listen, I don't know anything. I just know that he is going to take his time. It's what he does with everything.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's Grant Bricks did the same thing last year. I mean, you have different recruits go about it differently. And this isn't a super light, easy, just make the decision and it has no ramifications. Like, you're choosing where you play for football. You're betting on individuals to help you with your aspirations to go to the NFL. Like, it should be a thought out decision.
Schaefer, so let me ask you this, because we talked yesterday a little bit about guys that kind of enjoy the recruiting process maybe a little bit too much. Have you, and I'm putting you on the spot here, so I apologize, but have you noticed any correlation between guys that like being recruited too much and either guys that maybe don't last in the program or don't live up to the hype?
Not necessarily. It's hard because
we make that in our head. I think that's what we're talking about in our head sometimes. And so I'm just curious if you've actually noticed that.
I don't necessarily believe that to be true. Because I think so much of recruiting has nothing to do with what ultimately happens when someone gets into a football program. I mean, I think coaches definitely want to vet an individual to see if there's a real reason that they're going to take a visit, or that, if they have actual interest in Nebraska, or if they just got in the car of a coach and, they're here because of that. So I think you have to do a lot of inventory as to whether this recruit is taking visits with real intention and that sort of thing. But none of that has to do with what it's like on a Tuesday in, October, and you're a freshman and you're having to, go through school for the first time and you're going through football for the first time. I mean, you hope that when you've done recruiting, you can sort of figure out how are these people going to be able to handle this, but no one ultimately knows. And, some guys who lock in on a program right away and know exactly what they want to do and everything looks great. And they get to Nebraska and within 1 year, they realize like it's not where they need to be. So I would hesitate to apply too much in terms of labels. There's definitely people who like the attention. And there's definitely people who like the phone calls and the games and all of it. But there's also people who claim that they don't. And then they're the ones who end up committing to 3 different schools in 4 months. Everyone's sort of different. You have to make decisions based on you. And sometimes your decisions are taken out of your hands. You might have a staff that just drops you from a class late in the cycle or things of that nature. So I would hesitate to apply to put too much label on what someone's recruitment looks like for their career at a school.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is kind of how you personally that has a Schaefer prism written all over it, right? Because you're just not really judged, even though you'll have strong takes. Like you don't really judge people's. That's just not your style. Like you kind of just
try not to, because
right? Just let people be.
I don't know what their life is. I talk to. Some of it's really hard. I don't want to pass judgment on a lot of these recruits because I don't get to talk to them that much. I talk to them, like let's say a kid that commits to Nebraska, in April, I've talked to twice before he commits. I probably talked to about 4 more times during the football season and send messages here or there. I don't really know these people, so I shouldn't pass a ton of judgment on who they are or what their decisions are. But I only know a glimpse of what they tell me. I only know the portion that they're willing to show.
Schaefer, I have to say, you shouldn't let a lack of information discourage you from judging people. I never do.
I mean, I certainly judge. I just may not verbally pass
with Ravi right there. I barely know the guy, but here's what I think about him.
Not a big Dan Hurley fan.
Never met the guy.
Dion, enormous a-hole.
I think that tracks.
So I do feel like I know enough about Dion.
Hey, Schaefer, real quick. You mentioned I'm kind of with you on somebody else or two saying yes this week. What position group do you think? Is it a group that needs the bump or a group that you think is just going to get a bump?
I think it's just a group that's going to get a bump. I don't know. Looking at this class, I don't know that I'm at the point where there's anything or any position where it's like they need to get a guy here. I mean, they got Parker at running back, and that pretty much satiated where I was with their running back recruiting at the very least. Any addition to that would just seem like a good thing, but not necessarily a had to have it.
That's Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7. Schaefer, we appreciate the time as always. We will talk to you again next week.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Schaefer.
Don't forget, wearing your seatbelt saves lives and prevents injuries, but only if you make it click. Wear that thing properly. A message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
I don't really know these people, so I shouldn't pass a ton of judgment on who they are or what their decisions are. But I only know a glimpse of what they tell me. You know, I only know the portion that they're willing to show.
Schaefer, I have to say, you shouldn't let a lack of information discourage you from judging people. I never do.
I mean, like, I certainly judge. I just may not.
That is
verbally
classic
pass on
Ravi
it.
right there. I barely know the guy, but here's what I think about him.
Not a big Dan Hurley fan.
Never met the guy.
Dion, enormous a-hole.
Wow. I think that tracks.
I stand by both those statements here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590,
Nothing
ESPN Omaha.
encapsulates your personality more than that last 60 seconds.
ESPN Tri-Cities and KFR and Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. You can catch us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Also, if you miss anything, make sure you hit up the podcast, Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, wherever you can find us. Make sure you hit us up, give us a follow, subscribe, whatever you do. I don't know, whatever the buttons do. Make sure you do that. Dion, enormous a-hole. Yeah, I stick by that.
I just don't know how you could feel good saying that. Although the whole concert information and all that stuff coming out, that was...
You know how I feel comfortable saying it? Everything that ever comes out about him, I was like, yeah, that's a D-bag.
That is so wild.
Yeah.
Like, you made the concert mandatory?
And not for team bonding.
To go support Shedeur?
Because not just Shedeur, your quarterback, Shedur's rap career.
I have to be missing something with that story.
I don't think so. That actually sounds enormous a-hole. That actually sounds right on brand with everything we know about them. Like, what part of that doesn't sound right to you?
You are a stone cold trip.
I thought it was dill hole, not a-hole.
I never even heard that word before yesterday.
I mean, that doesn't sound right to me.
It was a big.
I still think that's made up too.
I got back up in the chat yesterday. It was it's from that 70s show. They used to say it all the time. Not that you watch that, but
okay,
that's where I got it from.
I just feel good that purpler was a word.
Actually, Amazing Daniel did send me a dictionary definition, so I'll allow it.
Thank you. Appreciate your support. Another Bartles and James moment. If you were older, that would be very, very funny. But that was a great shtick where they had the old guy sitting on the porch.
Yeah.
And you seem like a wine cooler guy.
No, I'm not actually.
When you're not on your yacht with your
it's like
seltzers
and I like a seltzer. I'm not trying to do wine coolers. Come on, man.
Isn't that the same thing?
I'm not a child.
I mean, isn't that the same thing?
No. How dare you? Enormous a-hole. How dare you, Shane? You don't know.
Nice little spritzer.
No, I'll do
spritzer,
a little champagne, maybe a nice Riesling.
Yeah. I actually like Riesling.
Riesling, man. There's V Mertz has this German Riesling that I'm just obsessed with. It's so good.
If Zoe would not have been sick on Sunday, I would have gone to hang out with Bill.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, we have plenty of drinks, and I just was looking for another guy to hang out with. And Zoe likes to swim. And I just wonder, like, you ever look at people and you wonder what their thing of choice would be?
Mm-hmm.
I would not guess seltzer.
No. Oh, for me?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about for Bill. I was like,
and I wouldn't even know how to get. I wouldn't even know what to guess
for Bill.
He's probably like club soda, Topo Chico.
He looks like to me either.
Which, by the way, I have a blueberry sparkle.
Yeah.
While I'm busy making light.
Yeah.
At least this is like just flavored water. Do you buy that brand? Because it was $2 for $3 at the gas station.
What, the Topo Chico?
Yeah.
No.
Blueberry hibiscus.
Blueberry?
Is that how I said it?
God,
man. You should see what goes through my mind sometimes sitting next to you. It is disturbing.
At some point, I fully believe I'm going to have to fight you off physically because you're going to try and choke the life out of me.
Ryan's like, no, he's good for you.
Really?
Really?
Ken's got a message for you on the.
Ken, what's Ken got? Ken E?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get to Ken, okay? Because
what does Ken
first
say?
of all, he's had a lot of bad takes this morning.
Hey, Ken is tough, though.
Listen, we were talking about quarterbacks earlier. He goes, we make this harder than this. Throws the ball well. Check. Handles pressure. Check. Can run. Check. How many guys can actually do all those three things, Ken? How many?
Is it not the greatest thing when the fuse just goes, why didn't you address him then so you don't snap?
Because we didn't have time. We were talking to Schaefer right off the top there. And so I've been sitting on that. He said that 9:03. I've been sitting on that for 30 minutes. Like, who does all three of those things well?
Ken holds his own in the stream, man.
He does.
It is like a dog eat dog in there.
And we appreciate everybody listening to the comments. But who does all three of the, like, simple versus easy right there, Ken?
Well,
simple.
So I just go back to it. Wasn't
yes.
Listen, it wasn't that long ago. We had AJ Bush, Tommy Armstrong, Riker Fife.
I'm just saying, go back through
like sometimes the quarterbacks just don't seem like they could run the same system. I
agree. I agree with that 100%. But I'm just saying, go back over the last, I don't know, forever in Nebraska football and find me a guy that does all three of those things well. Is it Joe Gans? Is that the last guy that did all three of those things well?
Probably Zach Taylor.
Zach Taylor couldn't move. He was a statue.
He could move enough.
He was a statue.
Like who? Brady? Well, that's right.
Who?
He could move enough.
I'm not saying. Listen, I'm not saying that you have, but I'm going by his checklist.
You're pointing at him like a 4-year-old. You
go by his checklist. Always.
Kids are you watching this?
Kids are the worst. Throws the ball well, handles pressure, can run. I'm not saying you have to have those three, but that's his checklist. So let's go by his checklist. Zach Taylor couldn't outrun me in a kickball game.
So I missed.
He has a good checklist. He even says seltzers are the 21st century.
It's a great checklist. Just show me the guy that checks those boxes.
I think Ken's right.
Show me the guy.
Would you stop? I know what you're doing over there.
Show me the guy that checks those boxes.
Shane's over there like Kingsford lighter fluid.
Well, it's cool because I never listen to Shane anyway. Show me the guy that checks those boxes.
Well, some people were a little disgruntled with me when you asked me a long time ago, you and Andrew, about what I expected from Dylan. And I was like, just play catch. And everybody's like, you can't ask that of a 5-star. Sure I can.
No, you can. 100% you can.
Just play catch.
Yeah, if you are able to make the simple throws to keep you on schedule and keep the offense moving forward.
I don't want to feel like
convert on third downs.
I don't want to feel like 3rd and 6 is insurmountable.
Yeah, that's great. That's a much more reasonable ask than runs well, handles pressure, and throws well. Because not a lot of guys, certainly not a lot of guys in Nebraska recently, have been able to do all those.
Dirty little secret.
Always.
How well do you think Nebraska is going to be up front with how we feel about their backfield to not have QB run game as an element out of the gun?
That's going to be really interesting because they relied on it super heavily last year. I don't think they want to necessarily, but what does their run game look like when they don't?
I tell you, it'll be a lot of split zone, a lot of duo.
Sure.
They're going to have to be creative, I think.
But they're going to have guys that we don't have great answers on be better than they have been.
So do you know why I like guys like Bonner and Fedoni and some interior, like,
because they can help out with that?
Yeah.
Help out with the blocking of those schemes?
Yeah.
Because you're going to have guys in the running back room be better than they've ever been before.
I don't know about that. It's too linear. Don't give me that look.
Who in that room can be exactly?
Listen to what I'm telling you.
Who in that room can be exactly who they've been before, and it'll be good enough this year?
Let me listen to what I'm telling you.
Listen, Linda.
What if the offensive line is just better? Because they weren't near as bad as we thought they were last year. What if the offensive line is just better?
Then the running backs will be better.
See, Ryan Peters over here. So that now you're going to weave that into what you said, because you're going to be like, oh, I just said that no, it's not independent. It's just not them getting out of the bed and having had a better 6 months than they had a year ago.
So let me make sure I understand. So you're saying they could be exactly who they were before, but if the offensive line is better, then they will get better results from the game.
Yeah. So your standalone comment,
right? Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight you on that.
Yeah, because I mean,
the running back centric running game needs to be better than it's ever been before.
Yes. Handoff run game.
Fair.
The handoff run game. Will have to be better.
Fair. If you don't want to specifically make it about the running backs, I'm fine with that.
Because it's just not.
But the running back run game, offensive line, the blocking, the schemes, the running backs themselves, holistically has to be better.
Yeah, because I think
I can live with that. I'm not gonna die on that hill.
It just, and that one's easy to prove too, because I could just show you like 7 different runs, that whatever they netted in terms of the gain,
the final result. Yeah,
and I could say, I just arbitrarily could say, well, cut here or stay on side here or increase there. So I'm not one of those guys that's always like, well, it's all this or it's all that. Because in the run game, it's
never all one thing.
Yeah, it's never like that.
I mean, that's football in general. That's why football's so hard to evaluate. It's never all one thing.
Except with drops.
Like where guys just drop the ball. Yeah, fair.
That one, it's like, can't put that on anybody else.
Yeah, it's like, that one hit me in the hands. Yeah. Whoops. Coming up next.
And both sides got to get better at that. Just imagine like I said, if the DBs catch balls they get their hands on and receivers catch balls that they get their hands on, it's a vastly different discussion.
Yeah,
How many balls did Nebraska drop last year on offense?
How many did they drop on defense?
A ton.
How many did they drop on defense? Coming up next, we'll talk to Tony Mejia and wrap up the NBA season here as we wrap up the show on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Confetti guns shooting green and white confetti and making the most beautiful blizzard you have ever seen rain down on a crowded court at TD Garden. The final score, Boston 106, Dallas 88. The Boston Celtics are world champions for the 18th time.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We are joined now by Tony Mejia of the Sporting News. Tony, how are you this morning?
What's up, Robbie? I'm doing great. Hi, Damon. What's up? Just sitting here, a little late night. I watched the Celtics celebrate and then took some time to unwind myself. So a later night than I'm used to, but yeah, I mean, just plugging away. How about you guys?
Well, it's interesting, Tony. We were talking about this was in regards to win totals with football and, you know, what people are willing to pay with juice and not juice before you actually move the line. And I got to be thinking with this NBA series, Vegas had to have taken a bath, didn't they?
You know, I don't think so, because I know a lot of people, me included, were on the Mavericks at plus money because technically Boston was the favorite, and everybody did see that their path was easier than most. You know, not only did they come out as the unquestioned top seed in the Eastern Conference. I mean, shoot, it was the Eastern Conference Boston Celtics Invitational before all the injuries.
I mean, never a spread bigger than 6.5, and it was when Boston was at home, and they were all blowouts.
Yeah, they were not an underdog until the Porzingis injury. I guess it made Dallas a 1-point favorite in Game 3, and even then you saw some pick'ems and whatnot. So yeah, no question. I don't think they took a bath, to answer your question. I mean, and I think it probably would have gotten worse if it probably would have been worse for the Bucks if not for the KP injury. But even then, that somewhat gave hope, and the way that Game 2 ended. I mean, Game 1 obviously the blow up, but the way the Game 2 ended with Dallas making that run, nearly cutting it to 3, I thought that was the swing point of the series. Was the PJ Washington non-foul But just the bottom line being that the Celtics took care of business. Absolutely not taking anything away from them. And then I just did my 2024-25 odds look ahead. Celtics favored to win banner number 19 before number 18 even is up.
Can we have the discussion with the Boston Celtics and how dominant they were without giving Mazzulla credit? Because it doesn't seem like he gets a ton. It's more of the antics, and I think some people think it's more of a shtick with some of his pressers, but he apparently can coach, can he?
He absolutely can coach. Let's stop with me and you can roll out there and win a title with them. I thought he did a great job. I do think Ime Udoka fumbled the bag there, and not to mention Nia Long, but that's another story. And it's a matter of Mazzulla doing a great job at being the guy that was really put in an uncomfortable spot. I mean, like, he was the fall guy last year. Everybody would look for somebody to blame, and it was him. And he got a lot better this season. He was in game management, and he steered the course his way. Like, he really didn't say much. From what I've read about him, I've never met him. From what I've read about him, he's the same guy all the time, and kind of not pessimistic, but just somebody that doesn't get too high whatsoever. And maybe that's a good approach to take with the prohibited favorite, because it certainly worked for the Celtics.
Yeah, so Tony, as we're kind of looking at the Mazzulla thing, I kind of get this. I kind of get this sense that his ability to manage the different personalities on the roster is maybe the most understated thing, right? I don't necessarily look at this team and look at it and be like, oh, they're so tactically savvy or technically complex or whatever. But it seems like you've got sort of a eclectic group of personalities. Like, how much credit does he get for that when you've got Jason Tatum out here being like, it would have been nice to win, but oh well, we'll get him next time. And then you got Jaylen Brown, who's like a real intellectual guy and
right.
Pretty unusual for an NBA.
Derek White just thankful that Mazzulla believes in him. Like, it is
Derek White just happy to still have a job. Like,
we don't know how to digest like them not beating their chest as this super team. They just kind of mind their own business.
And I think it's a personality dynamic, as you pointed out. From all of them. I mean, Tatum. I'm reading criticism of him being too vanilla this morning, as far as not saying enough original content, kind of ripping off the KG anything is possible thing with "we did it," screaming at the thing. I mean, Jaylen is the most. And I would never call him a diva, but he's the most extrovert of the group, and he is extremely intelligent. And then you got Drew Holiday, the ultimate team player. You got Derek White, who played it at D3, before Colorado, and nobody saw coming. You got Al Horford, the consummate veteran, and even Porzingis. He's on the quieter side as a guy that New York deemed to be the Messiah and the Savior. So yeah, the all of those personalities, I think, really mesh well together, and it's probably an easy group to coach. But I mean, again, winning over, what was it, 64 regular season games, something like that.
Yeah, 64.
And then taking care of business as the favorite every night out in the playoffs, almost. To the point where if you lose one, and they lost one that they shouldn't have to Miami, one that they shouldn't have to Cleveland, both at home, and then you see everybody wanting to pile on immediately. I mean, shoot, they went 15-3 this postseason. So, you tip your hat to them and then see if they can do it again.
Tony, can two things be true at the same time? That the Celtics are a great team and we're just an absolute wagon this year, and the Eastern Conference still sucked?
Yes, it can be true that the Celtics are a great team. I thought that the Eastern Conference had an opportunity to be much better, and unfortunately wasn't. And I'm looking forward to next season. I'm looking forward to see what Philadelphia does with its cap space. Looking forward to see what Milwaukee does with in year two of Dame Lillard being on board. Certainly year one, he was injured, and the chemistry was awful between him and Giannis. I mean, they seem to step on each other's toes. And then obviously we got the Knicks on the rise. Hopefully Julius Randle doesn't mess that up, because then everybody will jump all over him. But I want to see him fit into the new Brunson-led team and be a factor. And then we've got, teams like Orlando on the come up. Cleveland, if Donovan Mitchell stays put. So, yeah, the East could be a lot better, and obviously Indiana too.
So this is interesting, because I think it kind of flew under the radar. But we've been debating all morning about how much assistants matter and who to give credit to and this, that, and the other. And kind of in the wee hours of the night, Jeff Van Gundy goes to the Clippers as the top assistant. Number one, are you surprised that he's back in the game? And two, that presence with Lou has got to be pretty formidable, doesn't it?
Well, I do know Ty Lue, and everybody that works with Ty Lue loves Ty Lue. So that's
agreed.
As soon as I saw the news, I said, "Oh well, Jeff wants back in as a head coach," and this is just he got a slap in the face from ESPN. There's no question about that. A raw deal. They fired him before he could even get a real job and land on his feet. And that saw Stan Van Gundy's interview. With the South Beach session with Levitard, where he went into a bunch of stuff. But
they pull no punches in that family, do they?
Yeah, no, they don't. And it's interesting to see Stan doing so well as a commentator, because I don't think he'll get the itch, but you kind of expected Jeff would, and it's basically now or never for him. So I think it's a stepping stone thing. I think if he does well, he'll be on the short list of a lot of teams this time next year.
Okay, so Tony, real quick, I know you said you put together the odds for next year. You've got the Celtics as the favorite. Who do you look at as primary challengers? I know you mentioned, Philadelphia maybe putting something together. Do you expect Denver to kind of bounce back and be a real challenger for a title again? What teams do you think are the biggest threats to a Boston repeat? Or is it Boston the biggest threat to a Boston repeat?
Yeah, this piece, it's up, and I'll tweet it out if anybody's following me. I'll tweet it out after this, because it just got up earlier this morning. I haven't even put it out on my feed, but it's basically just the odds for this next season, and then me commenting on what's coming up in this off season that's going to somewhat shift them. Boston's plus 300, Denver's plus 750, and then you've got that pack of Dallas, Milwaukee, Minnesota, and Oklahoma City. And my initial take is jump on Oklahoma City now, because if they're plus 1,000, so that's 100 to 1 or 10 to 1. I'm sorry. If they make a move with their cap space now, like Gordon Hayward is coming on, and I expect them to, given all their draft capital, and get significantly better with a move that only Sam Presti sees coming at the moment, but he's obviously one of the best in the business, then those odds will come down. And they'll probably be right there with Denver as the Western Conference favorite. So really like the Thunder. And then, Philadelphia is right there behind Boston, and Milwaukee. And we're kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, because we know a move is coming there. And then they're kind of lumped into sections after that. You got, the Knicks and Sixers are basically at the same odds. Then you got the other Western Conference teams, the non-Minnesotas and OKCs and Dallases. That's probably next rung with the Clippers, Suns, Warriors, Lakers, where they've got pieces but tons of question marks. You got the Heat in there. We'll see what happens with Jimmy Butler, Donovan Mitchell, Paul George, all these guys. So it's going to be a great summer for movement and intrigue.
Before we let you go, and I know we're kind of up against it, who's the biggest name you expect to change addresses?
Paul George. I think he'd love to stay in LA. They're going into a new arena. They got a new logo, new everything. But I could see him saying, "Wow, I don't think this is going to work because Kawhi can't stay healthy," and then going off to Philly, which would make it's a great role for him if he does end up with Maxey and Embiid.
That is Tony Mejia. Make sure you follow him at Mejia Dinero. Tony, we appreciate your time as always. We will talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Tone.
Appreciate it, fellas. Take care.
That's Hurrdat Sports Radio for today. DB and I will be back tomorrow.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.